Is it
Thinking.
working?
Hey, there we go. Now that's live. You are live. Hello,
Okay.
everybody. How are you? It's Sunday. It's creeping up on 3:30 here in
Mm-hmm.
Winterpeg. Rasa is
Winter
here with me again this week, and we're I don't know, for a change. I was thinking for a
talking.
change, Rasa, let's talk about comics, maybe. Like let's
Oh
talk about
yeah,
things we've been reading. Yeah, just something different. Just kind of
yeah.
keep people on their toes. Yeah.
We never talk about comics.
No, no,
Like
I don't
we,
particularly like them that much, to be honest.
no,
Yeah,
like it's a subject we'll pass on. Like
yeah,
something we can grab a conversation about and
yeah,
stuff. So what did you
yeah.
read? Go on. It's your
Um,
turn.
just before we went, I was sitting and reading this. I got this a little while ago. I don't, and it
Mm-hmm.
just, you have so many reading piles. I don't often see. I know that this whole solo series has
I've,
been collected.
uh,
Um, but I've never seen this Cook one in person. So
mm-hmm.
I'm at the Staples, so I'm halfway through the book. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fun. It's kind of like, so from what I understand about this solo series is a different artist gets a book and they just do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So here's all the stories that he's done. And I believe it's all stories just for this series. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. So he kind of has it set up like
Mm-hmm.
like his own little personal anthology. But the thing with Cook
You should
is that,
you should make
oh,
big
I should make
screen.
myself big. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Good
because I
point.
was
See,
like,
Dr. Monkeybot is in here. That's what's happening.
yeah.
There we go. So we'll start
Mm-hmm.
again there. So there's the cover. The thing with Cook is, as we are all well aware, I'll show you that contents page again.
Mm-hmm.
His style is
Mm-hmm.
fucking incredible. So it's like each story, he's got
Mm-hmm.
a different style going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like just looking at the body shapes on there and stuff, and then you
Yeah.
go to uh, this story,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to what else do we got here? Then he's put in some ads in it as well too, but it's all sort of
Wow.
one story, and then there's a running story that takes place in a bar, so that's got its own kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll do, again, like look at these fucking pages. The guy, I mean, there's a reason why he's still my favorite and has been one of my favorites for a long time. His
Mm-hmm.
style is just it's unmatched, and um, it just really flows nicely. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you get kind of like a page, like the funnies page. So there's some comic strips, there's some art, there's a little maze at the front, there's a little gag cartoon down here,
Zatanna. Oh, Zatanna is so fucking awesome.
and look at that. Look
Uh,
at that Catwoman. It's just,
mm-hmm.
the guy was spectacular. So one of the ones that jumped out at me, it just really feels like a Darwin Cook. This strip right here that takes place
Mm-hmm.
in the bar. There's people talking about finding weapons of mass destruction, and the
Mm-hmm.
war, the Iraq War.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's Slam Bradley just sitting there drinking, and basically they ask him what his opinion is, and he basically says, you seem able-bodied. Get your butt on a transport, pick up a gun, and do your part if you think it's worth dying for. If you
Mm-hmm.
survive your tour, well, then you'll have the right to discuss which casualties are acceptable. Till then, shut your nasty trap. So it's like, it feels like that's the Darwin Cook. And I've always had this idea that Darwin would have been a great guy to sit and just like drink scotch with and just listen
Mm-hmm.
to him tell stories, because I'm sure he was just an incredible human being to sit and talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is it's an absolute lot of fun. I don't know how many issues there were, 10 maybe.
Oh, really?
Like Corbin has one, 8 or 10, something like that. Richard Corbin has one.
Mm-hmm.
Jordy Belair, is that a name that I'm saying right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of people, check them out, but I think that there's a collection of all of them in one. But every once in a while, I'll find them in
Mm-hmm.
a cheap bin, because some of them, like not all of them, I should say. I think Mike
Yeah.
Allred has one as well too. Brendan
Uh-huh.
McCarthy has an issue as well. Um, So when I do find them, I pick them up. But I don't see the whole series very often. It's just kind of random issues here or there. But that one
Okay.
jumped out and I just had to grab it. So, but
Cool.
Cook is incredible, man. So that's one I was just reading. And
Mhm.
then the other earlier in the week, I read this that's been in my bins for quite a long time. Oh, what did I do here? I'll go back to big.
Yeah. Cool.
Is it Dark Horse? I believe no, Kitchen Sink, and it's
Mhm.
Armed and Dangerous by a duo, Mezzo and Pierce.
Mhm.
It's amazing. It has kind of like almost like
Oh,
a Charles Burns. I've had it for a long time, and I remember talking about it briefly quite a while ago. And then it's just one of
oh,
those
look at
that
that.
goes into a to-read pile that you just never end up reading. It
Mhm.
sort of has a Charles Burns vibe to it with kind of the use of the color and but then there's
Mhm.
this kind of rubbery look to all of the characters, and it's a crime book basically. It's
Mhm.
a it's and it's a fantastic read. The one thing I will say about it is I got to the end and I did
Mhm.
have to flip back a couple of times and relook at some pages because I wasn't quite sure of what the
Yeah.
hell happened. It sort of
Mhm.
jumps in time, so we start off kind of
Yeah.
on following a car,
Mhm.
and then it's we get introduced to a couple of the characters, and then we jump 48 hours earlier on this page. So, and they do that a
Uh-huh.
couple of times. There's also a little bit of Darrow in some of that line work. Like there's a lot of lines
Yeah.
on those pages, right? So
Mhm.
it's kind of a mix of Charles Burns and Darrow. There was one page here I'll just show you that like, and then they'll do some amazing things with color in this
Yeah,
panel.
exactly. I wanted just to say that.
All that reds and purples and
Oh,
stuff. Really,
look at
really
that.
nice to separate the interior. There's
Gee
one
whiz.
page here. Well, I mean, I should say there's many pages of just fucking
Yeah.
gorgeous art, but there was
Mhm.
one that really jumped out at me. This one here, these 2 pages,
Mhm.
just kind of showing a car crash and the use of
Whoa.
like making
Panel.
one shot, breaking it up into 3 different panels, and then this
Yeah.
whole page here with the carnage of the car wreck.
Mm.
2 panels or one panel split into 2, etc. And again, that car looks sort of real. You know what I mean? Like there's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
texture to it with that line work.
Mhm.
It's incredible. I did a little bit of research on these guys and have seen some other things that
Mhm.
they've produced, and
Mhm.
they look great. And the other one I wrote down, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Looks pretty fun.
Mhm.
Other than me being a little confused with the storytelling technique, it was a hell of a read. And like I said, that was
Kitchen
Kitchen
sink.
Sink.
Do you
So that was well worth checking out.
do you think the translation is what the problem? Because it sounds like they're Italian. Yes, is it? Is it? Am I right?
I'm guessing, yeah, I'm guessing so too. Yeah. It doesn't say in the like. There's no real intro to them here. Sometimes they'll have like a little brief kind of bio of them. There's nothing written inside here about them, but I'm
Mhm.
guessing so. Yeah,
Because of the surnames and periods and all that.
yeah,
Maybe Greek.
yeah,
Maybe Greek. That's another thing I get confused by. But
yeah,
the thing is, what I like about the paneling and you show those panels is that artistic liberty you can take in comic books and how you wanna
yeah.
put the shot and screen and the camera like motions and where it is, and it's very difficult to do, especially car crash, and then taking such a um kind of like zoom in panel shot, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like show all the grittiness and stuff like that, because if you mess it up, you will get confused to what you're looking at, you know what I mean? It's
totally.
like, so
Well,
yeah.
I think the confusion for me was early on in the story. There's
Mhm.
3 people in a vehicle, and
Mhm.
later in the story, when it kind of because it sort of does a loop, right? So you get to the beginning of the story, and it basically loops back to the front because that's the conclusion of what's happened there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the story, there's only 2 people that get into this one particular vehicle. So I'm like, who the fuck is this third guy? What is going on here? And then 2 of the main characters are kind of tied up, and it's like it's a real leap of like, oh, okay, so there's a huge amount of time
Mhm.
potentially. So it almost felt like, well, surely that's not 48 hours before. Surely that's like a week before or something. You know what I mean? So it was just the time, that kind of layout just
Mhm.
confused the shit out of me. I think I understand it now at this point, but it
Mhm.
just didn't read as smoothly. I don't feel like it was spelled out enough. I feel like they
Mm.
should have. There's maybe a couple of missing beats, or even when it did say that 48 hours, maybe it's 72 hours, because it just doesn't feel like there's enough time for how it ended to the beginning of the story. You know what I mean? So yeah,
You should, if it's translated, you should see it in the first page when you open it up. I think if it
yeah,
was translated, you would tell you the information, but
that's a
you know,
good point. Yeah, I didn't
because
notice, but yeah,
it's usually what they do. If it's like like Europeans, whoever does the comic book for what, they usually tell who is translator and what he did the job.
yeah, it
I
doesn't. All it says is who did the colors, and then the publisher and art director and designer. So
Maybe when
designer,
you just introduce that in the later stage, when the comic books they or
yeah,
the editions they came out with, that would be
yeah.
great because at the end of the
This is
day,
like this is 1995, so I guess it was first published in 1991, and then
when
this
they go,
printing is July 1995. So that tells me that it'll probably be a translation as well too, if it was published elsewhere before the kitchen sink, or at least maybe not a translation, but at least published in another
yeah,
somewhere else.
well,
But yeah,
it looks,
it was a fun read, and I mean, the most fun was the art for sure. A lot of
looks
the
like it.
characters were kind of those caricatures, but nothing wrong with it. But just beautiful to look at page to page.
Yeah, you're mentioning Jeff Darrow, and the first thing always Shaolin Cowboy is just that it like
Yeah,
we were talking about figures and all that stuff. Shaolin
yep,
Cowboy, it always comes out and it
yeah,
gets sold out like that, and you're like, oh why? And once I was daring to show to my husband,
yeah,
look, I would like that kind of things. Like nope,
yeah.
because of like it was what I think it was 300 pounds
Oh wow.
just to it was like everything like his costume was in cloth, it wasn't sculpted,
Oh man.
and it's usually if when they come out with that kind of statues of because I think they came out like in my collecting knowledge about Shaolin Cowboy, I've seen twice they came out with statues, and both times they were like sold. Nobody sells it afterwards. If you don't buy it that time,
Yeah,
nobody will sell it afterwards. I don't know, there is like if you have read it or you have followed Shaolin Cowboy,
yeah,
you don't want to like I would probably buy it. I will never get it, like never sell it, because it's just something. I mean, I don't know. It's just I really enjoy the character itself, especially
yeah,
when I was reading the first editions.
yeah,
When then Jeff Darrow took over after, like in Dark Horse, he was doing that. I love them as well because it's just it's not about story anyway. It's for
yeah.
him to just do whatever the hell he wants, put as
That's right.
many things as much as you want,
Yeah,
and just like you can't stop looking, and you don't want to read really because you just look and see what's going on, especially with that that chainsaw on
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and he just went like this,
yeah,
and it's like, oh my god, the
yeah.
havoc, and the
I mean, how many issues was that fight? That fight was like a good two
mm,
issues at least, right? Where that was the
exactly.
entire book. Yeah,
Yeah, and then the amount of detail you have to put in.
yeah.
I mean, how long did it took him to finish a
Well,
page? I
from the
mean,
from the few interviews I've heard from him, and just people talking about him,
yeah.
apparently he's one of those guys that even at the convention, he'll
Mhm,
sit there and draw on the covering that they have on the table. He'll
mhm,
draw. I feel like he's a guy who he just draws all the fucking time, every minute of every day, and just draws, right? Like he just
mm,
doesn't stop. And I mean, he's also one of those guys that I don't know if I've well, I personally, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say,
uh,
fuck, I hate Jeff Darrow. You know what I mean?
yeah,
His art is just shit. Everybody
mm,
who seems to talk about him, it's always
yeah,
with oh no, the guy is incredible. You know what I mean? And it's
mm,
because of that. I think he's just that guy. He just fucking doodles and draws all the time, every single day, right? So
okay.
it's good to give him an outlet. And that's the thing. Like, I love those Shaolin. Like, I remember buying the Burly Man right when they were
Mm,
coming
the
out. I
Berlin
missed a couple of
mess.
issues, but
Yeah.
they were just so engaging. Like, I remember seeing them on the shelf, and it just
Mm.
completely jumped off the shelf at you. And as soon as you flip through, it's like, I've never seen anything like this before, And the
Uh,
story is the story. It's
yeah,
fine. Like, there's nothing
yeah.
wrong with the story, but it really does become about the art and just seeing this guy just let run wild. So yeah,
Mm. And the thing is that the Wachowskis, well, now
yeah,
like I'm a Matrix fan. I always have been, and one of the things I always watched, and I was looking forward to every single movie coming after that. And then knowing that they were doing that, that really sparked me even more. I remember, I don't know, is it you who mentioned it, that I went completely bonkers after that? Because I know I watched a YouTube video, and I think it
I'm not
was
sure if it was mine specifically, but yeah, yeah.
somebody anyway, I think it was your video, has to be,
Okay.
because I don't
Yep.
I don't recall anyone, because I do kind of remember sometimes
Yeah.
who I seen it from. But the
Yeah.
minute I
No.
saw
Totally.
it, and I was like, I had to get it. So I got, I think, 2 copies I found, because it was so difficult to find those Burley Men. And I
Yeah.
flipped
Super
through them.
difficult.
I was like, why? I want more, and I couldn't find it. And it took me so
Yeah.
long to collect that all. And then when they collected them, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I have them. And it's like, now it's like every single time Jeff Darrow mentioned or Shaolin Cowboy, I just hear something like that. Just it sparks back the memory, and that's how memorable the characters is for me. It's just the
Yeah.
way, the coolness of the fat guy kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
he's a big guy, okay?
Yep.
He has his beer belly or whatever you call it, and he's just cool. It just oozes out of him, and the way they portray him, it's just, he doesn't have to speak. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the
He's
silent
badass.
character. I mean, you can really fuck it up if you don't do it right,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
those kind of silent characters. But when Jeff Darrow does it, you just, as I say, you don't care. I don't think anybody cares about what you're gonna read about the character.
Mhm.
You just care to see what he's gonna do, basically, what kind of action scenes he's gonna put up,
Yeah.
and how he's gonna fight. And then
Yeah.
other characters, they are just hilarious anyway. Because
But
they
and
usually
you're
go,
right about that Burly Man run. Like I only
yeah,
in the last year or two, it took me that long just to find the first issue. Like you
yeah,
don't find them. Because I missed it. I think I jumped on like issue 2 or issue 3 because they
mm.
also had the what the hell was that Frankenstein title they had as well too.
Oh
They had
yes,
another title as well too at the same
yes,
time from Burly Man, which I wasn't picking that one up. It didn't strike me as much, but like
mm-hmm.
once you missed those issues, that was it. Paulo Costa, hello. Once you
Hello.
missed those issues, that was it. So I mean, like
No.
it took me that long just to finally find the missing issue, to finally complete that run.
And the editions, the way they really solid comic books. The covers are really nicely presented. Everything, it's beautiful, and it's like, as I say, one of the highlights on my comic book collection all the time. Thinking about it, I have them in
Yeah.
like triple sleeve to just make sure I keep it as
Yeah,
neat
yeah.
as I can. It's just that kind
Yeah.
of thing, just, I don't know why. Maybe it's just the
Yeah.
beginning of the comic book collecting. I remember that clearly, because it wasn't
Yeah.
long since I started collecting them, but I was going crazy for that. It's just like, that was the hunt for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, oof. I want more Shaolin Cowboy. Like, we need to
Well, I mean, one
somehow.
of the things you should keep your eyes out
Yeah.
for, like when you're going to, eventually when those kind of
Mm.
things come back, is keep your eye out for Cheval Noir, like the Dark Horse, because they do a lot of
Yeah.
European reprints, and in those, there's a lot of Jeff Darrow art as well too. Even if it's just spot illustrations throughout the book, they're worth having just for that too.
Shaolin Cowboy is on one of the covers.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If that, like, I think it's like a Mexican
I
hat
think
on
you're
it.
right.
Like,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
and I always wanted, and guess what? Cheval Noir is not easy to find, and if you do find them, they're quite pricey, especially like
Oh,
the
really?
first
Okay.
5 numbers,
Yeah,
because of Dave Stevens.
yeah.
You have him there because everybody collects those of Cheval Noir, and then you of course
Uh-huh.
you have Jeff Darrow, and you have Mobius, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Mobius in there. Yeah, there's a bunch of good reprints in there.
Yeah, exactly. So
And now that I'm thinking about it, you're right. It's usually the later issues that I see when I
yeah,
do see them. It's
yeah,
usually the later issues. I don't often see the early ones.
yeah. Not like number one, number two. Oh, number two. Is it Cheval Noir? No, I don't know if it's Cheval Noir. But anyway, you know the concrete from Dark Horse?
The Dark Horse Presents. Yeah, that's the Dark
Yeah,
Horse Presents series.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, it's not the same. But anyway, it just reminded me. The concrete's first appearance, for example, is Dark Horse Presents 2. You can't find that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
It just doesn't, like whatever printed, whatever they sold to somebody, nobody's selling it. It's just like some weird, peculiar comic book.
yeah,
And then I always liked Concrete as well, because it's just a peculiar character made of concrete, and he just does whatever, like he has a human feelings, and he gets
yeah.
fall in love with a female, and then blah blah blah. That's just good storytelling.
If you
Yeah.
ever come across this one, that's the one to get, because I think this one has all of the stories from the Dark Horse Presents.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's fantastic. Like I read it and then passed it off to my son, and he read
Mhm.
it as well too. And it really is a good introduction to the character.
Yeah.
Like, the stories are fantastic, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's just a neat character. And
Mhm.
trying to keep my eyes open for him. I don't find them as much. Then they did these little volumes. So I mean,
Do you know
each
what?
of the mini series that they had, they did kind of like these mini volumes. I only have 3 of them because I
Mhm.
just don't see them anytime. But those are worth, if you see them, if you ever see these out in the wild, just grab them regardless, because it's just something I never see this stuff out there.
I
And they're
have them.
really, really great too. So,
I have a lot of in singles.
oh, you do? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I have like a minis, mini. That's the thing. I think one of the things what lacking in my collection of concrete is his first appearance. So that's why
yeah.
it's the
Okay,
only like a kind of hole I have, because I've
yeah,
been looking for it all the time. Like
yeah,
just mentioning that Cheval Noir is basically. Yeah, when I was looking for that, I was looking for this as well. So it's kind of like in the same range. That's why I remembered, and that's why I mentioned it,
yeah,
because of the peculiar characters anyway, who not many people know about anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Am I freezing up for you at all?
Yeah.
Because you're really freezing up for me. Am I still going?
No, you're going well. I don't know if I am like freezing out, because my internet has been playing around with me lately.
Okay. Because your audio is
Especially.
perfect. Like I can hear you. It's just the image freezes up every once in a while. But the audio is perfect actually. It's like super clear.
Okay, so
Um
that's
One
weird.
thing I'll show you, I took it out of the
Uh-huh.
packaging because I
Okay.
had the
Oh yes.
focus. Yeah, there we go. I had to take her out of the box because we were talking about all the toys and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said screw it and unpacked it. The hair is pretty interesting there too, but I mean, it's a phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's going to be hard for me to stay away from getting more Darwin Cook figures, I think. Hello, Gorvidal.
Hello.
Oh,
Oh
let me do this
no.
here. Let's see what he's saying here.
Mm-hmm.
Concrete is wonderful, a classic. I woke up to Earl to
Mm-hmm.
read all of Gideon Fall. Oh, early, sorry, to read all of Gideon Falls. Now that I have them all, watch the
Mm-hmm.
news. Not good. Price of being informed. Um, yeah, I didn't watch any news today. We've had quite a. We're in code red now in Winnipeg. So because of COVID, our cases have skyrocketed. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been put in code red. They've started locking down. Some businesses are now closed for business. They've really restricted the limitations.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we have another lockdown coming up. I know in the UK, is there a lockdown coming up for a month? Is that correct, Rasa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going on Thursday. From
Thursday.
Thursday
That's right. Yeah.
for a whole month, we're gonna be locked down now.
Yeah. I have a feeling that's coming for us next.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. I apologize. I forgot to take a picture of Swamp Thing. Oh, yes, please do. We'd love to
Yeah.
see it. Yeah, yeah.
We do. Yeah. So yeah,
Um,
lockdown is definitely in. A lot of people are going crazy because of the way they dealing with stuff. I think most of the governments, about governments, people are going crazy about and stuff like. It's inevitable. People are getting ill. You have to do
yep,
something about it, no matter whatever happens. So.
yep.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, our test positivity rate on Friday, what for the city was, I believe, 9.7%. And then for the province was like 8.6%. And I know the WHO was talking like that magic number is supposed to be, if you're at 5%, when
Mm.
people were locked down, they were saying if you're not less than 5%, you shouldn't be unlocking period. You shouldn't be reopening period. But yeah, I mean, hello, Francis O'Reilly. Good to catch you live. Been searching for concrete, but so far no success. Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
floppies, I generally find some of them, but again, not a lot of them. It's just one of those. I think it's one of the signs of like a quality book, like you were saying, Rasa. People are
Mm-hmm.
buying this stuff and they're not selling it because it's
Hmm.
great. I'm not getting rid of it.
It's those the stories where you like, it pulls the string,
Yeah,
and emotional part, and it's really well. Like you don't, like at the end of the day, it's nothing complicated of storytelling, but the way he's telling the stories and the way his emotionals is portrayed or concrete, especially, I remember always, I just liked it. It's a good stories to read, like those minis are great to read as well because of there's like 4 issues usually most of the time, as
Yeah.
far as I remember, and it's easy, like, you get your whole story, and that's it. I think you don't need like completely concentrate, oh, I have to get them all, but
Mhm.
when you start, you get addicted because you get satisfied after 4 issues, and you're like, okay, what other stories he came up with, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
totally.
something on the reading material.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I dug into actually last night, I've been kind of going through the bins, reorganizing. So I recatalogued all my collection, put it into CLZ. I'm pretty much completed doing that. So when I go through these bins, it's
Mm-hmm.
looking at like, oh yeah, I always meant to read this whole thing. It's a Chuck Dixon, Evangeline. So the first 2 issues were just kind of one shots, and
Mm-hmm.
then they had a falling out with who was it? Comico. They had a falling out with Comico, and then they released. So this issue is basically those first 2 issues in one, plus a couple of pages to kind of tie both of the stories together. And then it went to First Comics for I think like a dozen issues for another series, and I've got those as well. So I'm going to dive into those. It was a pretty fun read overall. It's I mean it's an action movie, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of thin on plot, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not necessarily always a bad thing. It's
That's
just fun.
fun.
It has a little bit of, especially the first story. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she's a nun who's kind of getting revenge, uh, a revenge story. Basically, she's a nun. There was
Yeah.
a group of men that came and did horrible things, which they only hint at, and then but you can obviously figure out what it is by reading the story. So she's
Mm-hmm.
going down and hunting people down, and everywhere that she goes in these first 2 stories, she always kind of gets hooked up with someone who's a little borderline criminal as well that ends up helping her. So the
Mm-hmm.
first one takes place in almost like it's kind of like a Mad Max-ish type of world. And then the
Mm-hmm.
second one takes place in outer space on a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up like, this is a great page to kind of like, she just ends up, this is kind
Wow.
of what she does the whole thing. She beats the shit out of people and shoots people in the back of the head and shoots them in the face, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
she's pretty badass.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fun. It was a fun little read. uh, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do when they stretch out with a longer run, but pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. In this one I have seen, so Charles Dixon and Judith Hunt does the art.
Yeah.
um, and in the first, I think in the second issue, they have the letters page,
Mm-hmm.
guys like Tim Truman write in,
Mm-hmm.
and it really does remind me of like a Tim Truman type of world. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like it's a character that he would do as well. It
Yeah.
has a very similar sense,
Mm-hmm.
and I think if I'm not mistaken, it was him and Dixon who started the Four Winds, which was kind of their offshoot from Eclipse Comics. I think it was the two of them that started that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a fun little read. And the last thing
Mm-hmm.
is still going in on this. I'm like halfway through, and
Uh-huh.
it's incredible. It's really, really fun. It's such a well done story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and something just happened that kind of shocked me. To be honest, I didn't really see it coming,
Okay.
but the art is beautiful, and
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the story.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm really just taking my time with it. I'm in no rush whatsoever. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
those books where every single page I'm really sitting and looking at the pages and looking at how he's drawing the expressions on people's faces and the textures. I love the use of all the black space around the panels and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really fun book. Yeah, and again, good old Eclipse
Mm-hmm.
itself. So highly recommended. But again, I've never seen this. It took me forever as I'm kind of completing this Eclipse list. I'm now on
Yeah.
titles that I'm having a hell of a time finding any of it, because some of them are just
Mm-hmm.
these really odd little one shots that they didn't print a lot of. So it's not
Yeah.
it's not something that's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, recommended, Gore. It was fun. Like I said, a pretty simple, quick read, but a fun read nonetheless. So I'll report back when I read the next 12, and we'll
Hmm.
see if it kind of keeps that up, right?
That's good. That's good.
So I mean, that's been my reading amongst cataloging. That's about it. Which was actually a lot of fun going through the boxes again and just looking at stuff. And
Hmm.
man, a lot of fun
Hmm. That's
just
good.
rediscovering stuff that, oh yeah, I meant to read that. Oh yeah, because I pulled out a few things.
Yeah.
Um, Another one I pulled out that I haven't started yet. I've got a bunch of these Whisper, this female ninja
Ooh.
comics, and I remember reading one of them, and I wasn't super crazy about it. I'm going
Hmm.
to give it another shot because at this point I've got quite a few issues, so I want to
Yeah.
dive into it and give it a chance. So I kind of
Hmm.
have a few piles of stuff up here on the shelf to
Uh-huh.
eventually read. Yeah,
Good. Oh, you
yeah,
have a lot of you always have a lot of choice. I mean, the what you show pictures of the what you pick up, and you're like, oh my god,
yeah,
where do you get this come from? And like, I've never heard
yeah,
something like that. I've never seen it. No, when I was
yeah,
looking through, like sometimes I like to do that, which is very bad, by the way. You go through eBay, you type in comic books, and
yeah.
you just go on a rampage of flipping up, and your finger goes like, oh my god, I'm in pain. But now I'm curious to know what's going on there. So even though doing that kind of random thing, I never like that's the problem. I mean, it's the wrong place to go look for random stuff. eBay is
Yeah,
especially because they will be bombarded with all the mainstream stuff, all the key books and all that stuff, where the money
yeah,
comes from and advertisement and
totally.
all that stuff. But
Well, and again, like I realized that I'm just in a lucky position, right? Like going through the
mm,
boxes, I also took out a bunch of stuff to trade in. So
mm,
me and my son went to Red River Bookshop yesterday,
yeah.
and I got like $140 worth of trade, and he let me in upstairs because I've been going there for so long. Hey, so this is how much you got to trade. We can let you look upstairs too if you want. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And once I hit upstairs, that's where everything, because I'm rarely up there, right?
Yeah.
It's not often. So I just started digging and pulling stuff out. And
Hmm.
it's really nice. So, I mean, I walked away, like I brought in a stack this big and came home with a stack this big. So I'm getting rid of some stuff
Hmm.
that I just don't want. And I mean, I'm really hard on my collection these days. Like, I'm
Hmm.
really just like brutal with stuff. Like, if I haven't read it or if there's a doubt in my mind, it's gone, right? Because I don't know, I can't go any bigger than this just for my own sake, just for my own well being. I just don't want it to be any bigger than this, right? So I really just want stuff that I really want to read and that I really enjoy. I don't want to
Hmm.
have stuff just for having it. Like, then it's gone, like it's out of here. And it's good to have those places. Like his place is chaos and it's an absolute mess.
Hmm.
But it's so much fun to dig through because every nook and cranny, there's a pile of books over here. There's some comics over here. He's got records over there. All of a sudden he's got a couple of bikes or some toys in the corner. Like he's really, it's a variety shop to say the least. A
Hmm.
spectacular place.
Oh, I bet I
Yeah.
would be like there with you, and we would be like disappearing and like where the fuck they are, like
Yeah. Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on with them? Yeah, that's the fucking thing.
when
I like.
you when you go up the stairs, like as soon as,
Yeah.
because it's another door, as soon as
Hmm.
you open that door, along the sides of the stairs there's piles and piles of like magazines,
Hmm.
comics, paperback books, and that's all the way up the stairs. So you get up to the top of the stairs to the next door, and just to
Hmm.
the left there's this little alcove, and I peeked in there. It's lined with boxes of what look like comics and more books. You open
Hmm.
that door to the upstairs and it's completely filled. In that
Hmm.
room, there's a door to another space. And I
Hmm.
saw it a couple of weeks ago. It happened to be, or a month ago rather, it happened to be
Hmm.
open. And in
Uh-huh.
there, I could see it's just filled with books and comics. So the story with this guy is he won the lottery a long time ago and is basically like a millionaire and has bought the entire building. He has enough money to never work again, but he's bought this entire building. So in my imagination, every single floor is probably like that. And it's like, man, let me in those other floors. I would love to, but none of it is open to the public, right? It's the main
Hmm.
floor is open to the public. And then once a month, he lets people come up to the second floor, but that's it. But there's another like 2 floors on top of that. And it's like, oh my God, I can only imagine what kind of gold you have in there, man. So yeah,
But that's the thing. I mean, if you have money, you can do whatever the hell you
yeah,
want. And I wish, I mean, that's the lottery dream kind of thing. You win the
yeah,
things. The first thing I do is just go shopping. Not
yeah,
for the house, but for comics.
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
know
and
what I mean?
honestly, like he's a super nice guy because his store is downtown. He gets a lot of
Mhm.
street people coming in too, wanting to sell stuff. And oftentimes when I'm there, you're getting someone, which is why he has random stuff because he'll buy pretty much anything just to give them a
Oh,
couple of bucks. Like he's an incredibly nice old guy. Like you have to yell at him. His hearing is so bad. And every once in a while, you'll just hear him say, "I'm afraid we're going to have to resort to writing things down because I can't hear what you're saying to me." If somebody's there that doesn't speak as loud as like I do, for example. But I mean, he'll literally he'll buy anything from people, right? And especially if they come in looking like they need a couple of bucks and they have like some paperback books, he'll give them $5. I can give you $5 for these kind of thing, just to kind of help them out.
mhm,
So he's a hell of a character, but super nice guy. Him and his
mhm,
son are the two that I always end up seeing lately when I go in there.
mhm.
But I'm in there a good at least once every 2 weeks. I'm in there a couple of times a month just because
Ah,
I absolutely love the place. It's really such a fun little spot.
mm.
Yeah.
Sounds like a dream for the comic book collectors, that's for sure.
Yeah, totally. His prices aren't always the cheapest, but he
Yeah.
does have sales on. Like, so most of the time when I'm buying stuff, it's because I'm bringing in stuff to trade. And
Mhm,
he's got this thing. If you spend $10, you get 10% off.
mhm,
$20, you get 20% off. And it just keeps going up like that. And
mhm.
so he will give you deals, but sometimes I see stuff in there and it's like, $4 for this. It's like, I've seen it for like $1. So whatever. I mean, it's his place. He can
Yeah.
do what he wants. I've still had a lot of success there.
Well, the thing is, if the guy buys it a lot of stuff, I mean, somehow there's money needs to be made from, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
many things
totally.
can you buy and how many you have to somehow get rid of that as well. Don't
Yeah.
forget. Either,
Yeah.
it's another thing. It's another job to do. When you get buy
Yeah.
something, you have to look for all of the stuff. If you do, of course,
Totally.
the job is it's crazy. When people are
Yeah.
like, you would think you're looking for comic book shops which buy stuff, but the job you have to do. I mean, like when I sell something to my comic book guy, I try to put them in order, kind of thing, for
Yeah. Yeah.
the same like name, so the same company,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So when he goes through it, hopefully that will. He never said anything to me, but when no, I just in back of my head, I was like, well, I need to help somehow. You help
Yeah.
me, so let me help you, kind of way.
Yeah. It's
And
hilarious. I
also,
do the exact same thing. I put it
yeah,
like when I bring stuff into trade, I do the
yeah,
exact same thing. I put it
yeah.
in alphabetical order and I make sure everything is together. And, yeah, that's hilarious. That's really funny.
Because the thing is, he like says to me, when you have collected story, for example, or like like a run, it's easier to sell for him
Hmm.
as well. But
Absolutely.
also it's more sellable, kind of thing, because it's all collected, like you're buying like a trade or something like that, let's say this
Hmm.
way. So for him it's easier. In my
Yeah.
back of my head I think that because I keep on calling, like I was calling him once and it's like everything was okay with my comment was nice, it's like perfect. And he just splashes that, like he puts the amount towards, and he just asks you, are you okay with that? I was like, yeah, I guess so, fine. I mean, I said I don't want money, and he knows that, and I think that's why he was so willing to just like, if you want credit, fine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can make some money and you can just whatever you get, because I'm not buying that many comic books for him not to think, oh my god, I'm gonna give her too much money, kind of thing, for the
Yeah.
thing. So
Well, and
but
that's the thing with going in to see his name is Dennis, this guy. When
yeah.
I go to see Dennis, it's the exact same thing. Like I've seen him now for years, like
Mm-hmm.
so when I come in, that's why he gives me such good deals on stuff because
Mm.
he knows the kind of stuff I'm into. He knows what I'm going to be trading for. He knows that, like one of his things is if you're going to bring a bunch of modern books, and he told me this many years ago, if you're going to
Mm.
bring a bunch of modern books in, I'd prefer that you trade for stuff within that era. Like don't bring in a bunch of modern books and then try to get like copies
Mm.
of the early Daredevil, you know what I mean? Like Silver Age books and that sort of thing. Like keep it
Yeah.
within the era. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm picking up all the weird shit that he's not selling anyway. So he's,
Mm.
yeah, man, here's how much you can have for trade. And if it's a little bit more, he lets it go. And it's in the past, I've been a little under and let it go. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a good relationship we have at this point. Yeah.
It's amazing when you have a rapport with the comic book guy, is
Yeah.
how good for you afterwards they can be. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he
Yeah.
always, like, I have a comic book guy as well. He's like, don't worry, like I keep on asking, because I'm the one asking him, so can you send me the payment through, because I'm doing it by post. I'm
Hmm.
not there to go to comic book shop actually putting the money down on the table. So I keep on emailing him. So are we putting through payment this month? Kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, okay. It's like I shouldn't even say, but like at the end of the day, for me in the back of my head, I'm still owning something for him, and is his business. At the end of it, his money. So I have to give it back,
totally.
even though I would love to have him for free, definitely. But that would even more kill me because I get something I'm actually asking for. So surely I have to pay for it. So
Yeah,
in that
totally.
sense, he's absolutely fantastic. His support, whatever. He's like, okay, yeah, okay, I forgot. Sorry, like I forgot. I'm gonna put the payment through for you as well. Like
Yeah.
all stuff like that. But does it help? Does it happen to you when you start selling your comic books from your collections? When you start buying some other books again, do you think you have that, or because I can't erase what I've seen in my back of my head, because I kind of swear I have this collection, but I forget
Yeah.
that I actually sold them, and
Yeah.
you're like, but I have them, and like you get sudden interest in the same things, and I remember people talking about it. It's like, yeah, for sure I have it, and I go look through the boxes and it's not there, and I go panic mode. It's like, what the
Yeah.
hell? Where's my comic books? And then they're like, dude, you sold them.
Yeah.
You sold them,
Honestly,
and you're like,
for me at this point in my life, like I mean, that kind of thing has happened where it's like, oh, I remember having that. I remember having that CD, but honestly, I don't miss it because once it's gone, and I mean, that's why I redid my CLZ, because what I was getting bad at was I was getting really bad at keeping it updated. So I was selling off
yeah,
stuff or trading off stuff and not taking it off the app. And then I was getting confused, So that's why I just said, fuck it. I'm deleting everything. And I just deleted the entire collection and just started from scratch. So now I've got it. And I also started putting stuff in myself. So if there was a 4-issue miniseries and for some reason CLZ only had one of them entered, I was entering the other 3, finding a photo, updating the information from inside the book. So I've got a really, really concise list now. And I feel like I've got a handle on it. I need that list because otherwise, even when I was looking yesterday for trades and stuff, like trading in, there was a couple issues. I was sure that I didn't have it. And because I'd updated my app, it's like, well, I'll try it out. Turns out, yeah, I did already have it. And I just had forgotten. But it's like, I swear I haven't seen this cover before. Or I've seen it a million times online, but I don't have it. So, because I'm really bad for that. Like I need something because otherwise I'll double buy stuff. But for stuff that I've sold, I honestly don't miss it. Like I said, I know that I'm surrounded by so many things I really enjoy. The stuff that's gone, it's fucking gone, I mean, a lot of like the mainstream stuff, I've really thinned out my DC and Marvel collection over the years. I've still got a lot of it, don't get me wrong, but I really thinned out a lot of that stuff, because it's like, I could put so many other things that I really, really love in those boxes and use that space. And then I know that I can get good value for trading in those because I know that when I do, they're going to be able to sell it super quick. Right. So it's not stuff they're going to be holding on to very long, which then again is going to get me more money trade wise. Right. So
for sure.
Yeah.
For me, I usually like when I was buying comic book hunting, I usually buy doubles. So that's the ones I usually sell off. And the problem is when you with your doubles, if you think you have double, but you don't check properly, you sell them. Like I had done that with Daredevil, and it really pissed me off because that Brewbreaker run, I had almost all of it apart one issue.
Okay.
Now I'm missing 5.
Oh.
And it's like, where is it? Because I thought it's double, so I put it in and I sold it to my comic book guy. So that's what I'm talking as well, talking about it. I mean, part of everything else, like, sometimes I sell it and remember the cover. That's the thing. You remember the cover and you sure you have it in your collection, but suddenly, oh, it's not here. It disappeared kind of thing, but
yeah,
it happens. I guess part of
totally happens. Yeah.
Part of fun.
Yeah.
To do that stuff.
And that's the other thing I noticed going through the boxes. I did have some doubles. Most of those went in the getting the hell rid of them. And it's frustrating when that happens. It's like, damn it, it's money. I could have had something else. What the hell was I thinking? But which is why I need that app. I need something. My memory just isn't that good. And I know that. So I need something that I can just reference and make sure that I'm not buying something that I already have, so yeah.
Yeah. So let me talk about something I read, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I haven't read much. This week has been actually quite horrible when it comes to comic reading. Oh, you already put me like on spot. Okay, so I'll
Yeah.
start with something I had bought for Dollar Comic Books
Oh,
of
yeah.
DC, and because of this Halloween, everybody's keep on talking about. By the way, I don't celebrate Halloween. Oh, buonanotte, mind the comics,
Hello.
and because I was thinking I've been having some like that, people mentioning this covers really remind me of Halloween and all the stuff. So I thought I'm gonna read.
Yeah.
Remember I told you about I feel like reading Batman comic books. So
Yeah.
basically, this is my fix for the week. So this is Brave and the Bold 197, and it's about everlasting love for Batman and Catwoman. And
Okay.
we have a scarecrow in action because, as you know, he plays with your mind and plays tricks of you. You start seeing things, or you start not seeing stuff. So this
Yeah.
story, it's apparently is based in, I think it's like Earth 2, I think,
Okay.
because the Batman himself is quite. I don't know. It looks old, kind of thing for me, and. Commissioner Gordon. Well, it's an old story. That's why I think it's like an F2 or something, but I don't think it is. I might be confusing that. But anyway, this is and the story is really good because it's basically it's called the story called is obituary of autobiography. Oh, I can't speak today. The I can't say it anyway. Bruce Wayne autobiography or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That word is just doesn't come out. The
I had to
beauty
put
is,
you on the small screen again because every time we go big, you totally
yeah.
freeze up. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
That's
this one
crazy.
seems to be working because we can see you now. So it's you're moving.
I don't know why, because I just checked my internet speed and my internet speed is really good.
It
So,
might be here. It might be me at my house too, like the receiving end. You know what I mean? I'm not
uh
like when I'm downstairs. Sometimes it's hit and miss for my connection down here.
yeah. I wonder why is it giving me so much hassle. Anyway.
Yeah, you're moving now, though. We can see you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm just looking to see. Oh, I lost my
Yeah, yeah.
my whole screen. There you go. I'm back to my screen. Anyway, so it's beautifully told story. If you guys can actually see it about Scarecrow. Basically, Scarecrow is on the rampage, and Batman is of course there to help, and he has this like trouble of being who he is and being Bruce Wayne in the same time, and then struggling with that kind of dilemma of every single day life kind of thing for him. And Scarecrow comes into this wedding where Bruce Wayne attends, and it causes a havoc. And of course, Bruce Wayne, being Bruce Wayne, is becomes Batman and starts to save or try to save everybody. And in that time moment, we have a Catwoman who he's there basically to help him, because while the Scarecrow is doing this job, he's basically what he does to Batman. He makes them disappear. The like his Batwoman and Robin disappears in front of him, and he goes like really crazy, and it's like, what's going on? I have to find them. Where are they? And he basically, apparently, his biggest fear is to be alone. Batman, so he is also um, paranoid about that, and of course doesn't help that Scarecrow is having an effect on that. So
Mm-hmm.
Catwoman is there to help him to basically be sane, because she's the one he basically sees, and nothing is wrong, like she's not disappearing, and they're basically going on a hunt to find the Scarecrow. And while this all happening, Bruce Wayne, or Batman, realizes that how much feelings he has for Catwoman, and
Mm-hmm.
how she always, even though she's a villain, and he always struggles with that, even though, but she's always kind of there for him, and she has that beauty of her, of being, like she tries to do kind of good stuff rather even being always say bad. And another
Yeah.
story in here says that she was basically, her backstory in here says that she was married to somebody prior being Catwoman, and that person who she married to was very bad to her, was beating her up, and when she left, she had to pretend that she has lost her memory in order
Uh-huh.
to escape. Um, to escape everybody, her husband and everybody else's perception of who she was. So she also has the dilemma of being, herself, Catwoman, and people's perception or her own thought of who she is. So in overall storyline, we end up having them becoming a couple, and that's how the story ends. And then actually it ends to the way where Bruce Wayne and Catwoman actually gets married, and they live their life through, and apparently she dies before him, and then he just remembers her saying that she had a good life, like with me, and she was the strong part of our relationship in that sense, kind of thing. So really good story. I mean, it's one of
sorry, is that a brand new? That's a new one, right?
No. This is the old. It's Brave and the Bold 197, but this was sold as a dollar comic. So those like Marvel has their own line of cheap comic books.
That's right, the True Believers or whatever. Yeah.
So the reprint. So DC was having the dollar comic books, which is great to just pick it up something old to read. You don't have to pay a price tag for that.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm still reading the Judge Dredd.
Oh yeah, nice.
And Judge Dredd's story is actually improving through the story. And then one of my favorite stories so far, which I haven't finished, I haven't read that much, but the stories I read was so as I told you before, Judge Dredd is going from, now remember, Mega City 1, from one Mega City to another Mega City to save. So Mega City 2 is in trouble, and he's going through this land where this bomb has gone through and everything is in turmoil. Nothing is the same anymore.
Yeah.
And like all horrible things happening, all the stuff. So, and then one of the stories is how they decided, one of the scientists decided to clone dinosaurs, and they basically going pass by that town, and that's why the stories come through. And the beauty is that they uses the crocodile's egg to implants an egg of dinosaur inside that, so it takes over basically and becomes that shell of a life force for them to become dinosaurs again. So after how many ages, how many billions of years, I'm not going to be in history here because I'm probably going to have the numbers. I'm not going to put myself on the spot for that. But anyway, those dinosaurs who disappeared basically came to be again because of this mad scientist. And they decided, they were like stupid enough saying, oh no, we're going to be able to train them. We're not going to feed him. We're going to fuck up with his brain. Everything will be fine. And of course, the dinosaur they decide to revive is the most vicious one, of course.
Well,
because why the hell not? Tyrannosaurus.
It wouldn't be much of a story if you revived one of the vegetarian ones.
Yeah, exactly. So Tyrannosaurus is the one they decide to play around with.
Yeah.
That's extremely clever job to do. And they're so proud of their job. They start doing all the kind of teachings, and it's like, we don't kind of like stupidly say, oh, we don't understand why he's not behaving the way we wanted to do. And the way we try to basically start feeding him with chickens or, like live animals and stuff like that. But because it's who it is in his DNA, he is basically becoming more evil and evil at the end of the day. That's this nature. And then he afterwards starts killing people. So it becomes this menace where they decide to, in order to survive, they become like, start feeding people. Or start feeding like sessions, and they have this zoo where people comes to visit, and because people apparently likes that zoo so much, they don't care whatever happens to them, because apparently they get killed by this T-Rex,
Really?
And the backstory as well, next story afterwards, it comes out, it actually tells you the history of who he is and where he's come from. And apparently his heritage is the most badass T-Rex mother, who was well known in that era, where she was basically an alpha throughout the years of their existence. And he's a sibling, like not a sibling, but he's a child of hers. So if you pick actually the right T-Rex to do it, because this heritage is actually, because when they cloned him or they made him to be living again, his memories are back, because it's sci-fi comic books, for God's sake. Of course, you're
Yeah.
gonna have that. And then he remembers
Absolutely.
about his remembers his life, past life. And I was like thinking, what am I reading? Because I got a bit confused because I didn't realize they're actually telling the backstory of this.
Mhm.
And then it shows I'm reading about this mother, and she's the badass thing, and then they showing different characters, and it's like, what's going on? And then suddenly they explain that actually that's his mother. That's his mother from million years ago.
Yeah.
And then in order to become how he died, they also explain he basically dies because he tries to kill her, because like alpha things, like you kill one in order to become an alpha. So he
Mhm.
tries to kill his mother, but mom is so bloody badass, she kills him, and that's his last memory of her.
Wow. Yeah.
So he has this grudge because he's like grudgeful because of whatever happened to him when he died, and then these people who basically make him live again, but then they treat him like shit, and he wants to be an alpha again because this is agenda for him. And of course, you have Judge comes into town, and they were saying like, yeah, he's been captured. I don't know if I'm showing you.
Yeah. That's you're moving now. Yeah.
Yeah. So Judge is captured because of course, he always goes in the wrong time in the wrong place, and he wants to do the Judge things, but he gets captured, and he say to we're gonna basically feed you to the crazed T-Rex they have. And the story from there is onwards. I haven't finished it yet, the story, because my son woke up in that time when I was reading. So I finished to the time where Judge escaped, and he's basically trying to deal with that T-Rex, because basically he's very clever because of what they were trying to do with him and fuck around with his brain, the T-Rex brain. He became so smart that he has that intelligence they didn't really think he's gonna have.
Yeah.
Which is funny. It was hilarious, but such an involved storyline. I really enjoyed it. This is where the story really captured me, and I want to continue now, because if it's just going to be like this, because it becomes animals. There's another story prior to that where like an anteater looking character, he saved Judge Dredd saves him from being slave, because he's an alien, supposedly alien creature. And he doesn't communicate because he only says tweak or like tick tick and something like that was mentioned in that. And Judge thinks because he's so apparently he's smart, it's like he's probably intelligent. And everyone's like, no, but he eats rocks. That character, no, he's probably saying something. But you kind of see emotional part of the animal as well.
Yeah.
And you're like, he saves him basically from slavery, and you find out but he becomes slave because somebody took them from their own world, his whole family, his wife and 2 kids, and the only thing what he wanted to do in order to escape that slavery thing was to actually go and see where his family was buried, because he wanted to say goodbye. And this basically character became part of the team, because while they tried to save him, the other judges were killed, and the bad guy who Judge is traveling with, it's like, was it worth it? This imbecile kind of thing. We took this imbecile instead of 2 judges who died because we tried to save him. And Judge Dredd, I always go for the truth and justice, and that's what we win. And it's like blatantly like, they died, but we have a new character now.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way. It's just so entertaining kind of thing. He just have one mission, justice. He's upholding the law, and that's it.
Yeah.
And whatever happens in between that, because he's kind of indestructible. Okay, no matter whatever trouble so far I've read about him. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, it seems like every time I shift when I make you big and make you small, it somehow jump starts your feed again.
Okay. Well, anyway, so this is the next story. So it's the last story, I think. Devil's the Beast Triumph. So we'll see what's going to be with T-Rex and Judge, but doesn't look like it's very good so far. And the story is called The Black Sabbath, which is great.
Sweet.
Because it's about, like a band. And you're like, oh, great.
And the Mario Bava classic movie, Black Sabbath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you movie expert, you talk about that. I'll talk about maybe some music. I'm not an expert on music either, but anyway. And I started reading. I didn't finish. I wanted to finish
Yeah.
before we start thing, but I didn't finish. It's Seven Secrets. Really good.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's an action-filled comic.
Yep.
It has those seven secrets. We have the son, well, illegitimate son kind of thing of two agents who was basically placed in the same environment where the parents was, but they never told them about his parents. Basically, had to hide it in order to um, make him live, kind of thing, because they, like secret agents doesn't shouldn't supposed to be in a relationship, especially partners. And this story continues and I was like, this is the Queen of England in this comic.
Okay. Yeah.
I was laughing because I don't think that would happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in this issue, we unfortunately his dad dies. He's get brutally killed by a villain of the story as well. And you have the son, because the story basically started that apparently this kid is actually gonna die. This is how, like we read the Western comic book together.
Uh-huh.
How the story started, like somebody's gonna die. It's basically similar to this.
Yeah.
He said, I'm gonna be dead, and then your story going how he became in existence, who his parents are, kind of like slowly showing the secrets, or kind of the secrets why they're hiding it, but not really yet explained. But so far, Tom Taylor and Daniela Din Niculo from Boom Studios doing actually not bad. I mean, it's a very easy flowing comic to read.
Yeah.
The art itself, not amazing, but not bad.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy it. Like, it's different, but the panels flows quite well. I understand the story so far, and there's the funeral of his dad, and apparently in that funeral, every single like president of the like important countries, like G10 kind of countries that came to the funeral. That's how important those secrets are. I presume, but I still don't know what the secrets are because they haven't disclosed it yet. I guess it's part of a storyline, Slowly we'll find out. But yeah, I haven't finished. But so far I read, I was like, oh my god, it was kind of full action. I was like, oh, it's the time to actually go for chat. So, but yeah, really good, really really good. And of course, as always, I'm doing my what is it?
Invincible.
Yep, this is the next story I have to read. I brought up my iPad finally because I have it in my hands because my 2-year-old son likes to take over.
Yeah.
He is so clever, this little douche. He doesn't let me actually use my own tablet because
really. So he gets a hand on it and he knows how to run it and how to search for stuff and like.
Yeah, it's
wow.
Like what he knows the most is he knows how to use Netflix.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's my thing? Yeah.
It's crazy, right? How quick they pick that stuff up. Lily was the same.
Yeah, I mean, we try to now to get like not let him use it at all.
Yep.
Oh, I wanted to show you this brutal pages. That's when it starts to go gruesome. Can you see it?
Crazy. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's pixelated, but I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know.
Cool. Wow. That's a neat layout. Looks like some really good colors on that too.
Yeah. Well, it's another thing. What it's the coloring is tablet has the back screen lit, so you get all the brightness in the world, and it's so clear every single thing in comparison to the like a page. So that's why when Sleep Reader's always talking about is when he reads a digital comic books and when he reads actual page comic books, it's such a vast difference because in the color, because it really enhances the color in iPad. You can make me smaller now. Because I'm not going to show you anymore. That's what I'm finished reading. But anyway, so far we're reading. The stories continues to be as hectic as always. Invincible's doing whatever he can to be a good guy and trying to basically make sure everything goes to the rise, but other characters in the stories continue doing crazy stuff. There's a couple of bad guys now. He was always complaining, saying that he doesn't have a villain because he's a superhero, and I don't have those villains, like who always looks for me. And then this guy who had Basically, he accidentally went there to save somebody, but because of the chemical reaction, what they were trying to do, they were trying to manipulate power from every like dimension. He was dimension hopper, but what he wanted to do from each dimensions of his own self, he wanted memories from them. So what happened is he got these two scientists, or one scientist and a clone. This is like story of them. They don't know who is actually the original one, and they keep on having an argument, and they really super clever bulky dudes, and they always keep on like, I'm the original. No, but I am original because I remember, because when they clone themselves, they remember exactly the same thing without knowing when it stopped, kind of thing, or when it started. So they have this ongoing argument about that, which is hilarious actually. So basically those two guys are so clever. So that dimension hopping character asked them to build this machine where he sits down on the throne kind of thing, and it gets connected to each dimension, whatever he found, both himself, to get all the memories. And then the accident happens while Invincible was there, kind of thing, part of like to take care of it or not to happen something, or because they were thinking he's a bad guy. Basically, explosion happened, and the guy who was trying to get those memories, his brain transferred to his back, and he looks like horrible. I'm trying to look for him. It looks, I mean, even on those bright screens, it's like, it's not great. Oh, I think I overjumped. Anyway, so yeah, Invincibles continues to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, cool.
It's really well told stories. His brother is part of the the new brother he has. He's gonna be probably part of a storyline because he's growing fast, and then the government is trying to basically hide because he's purple. So it's very difficult to educate first or show him in the public, because we'll start questioning, because people are curious. You have curious neighbors who wants to know everything. So they're trying to basically hide him from everybody. Where's that guy? Because he's such a gross figure. I wanted to show to you. Oh yeah, there you go. This is like crazy the way he looks, but it doesn't. You can't see his back, but I hope you can see it, because I don't know if it's. Well, he went to his mom's place with his son, with his brother, and he's basically, I'm gonna kill you, or otherwise you're gonna do something for me. And Invincible got so angry with him. Oh, there you go. There's number one. That's basically him. That's his brain basically protruding into his. Yeah, it looks. It doesn't show the whole thing. Basically, what happened is he is threatening his family. He comes in, it's like because he's dimension hopping, he can hop anybody he wants. So Invincible tries to attack him, and he puts that window of hopping, and he just transforms whatever he feels like it. And then this happened, and then because like you get angry and you're emotional, he hopped both of them together, and they start fighting. And he's like, when somebody's trying to, okay, hit me, like hit me. I'm strong enough. I'm too clever for you. Just hit me. So Invincible's like hit him so hard, so many times, he killed him. And this is the first kill he did, and he's absolutely distraught because he's a superhero. Superheroes don't kill people, and it's like I don't know what to do. And then he killed him in some other dimension he have never been to, and then suddenly you appear. Is time traveling as well involved? His other part, like other. The same friends of superheroes of other dimension came to help him and hop him back into his dimension. So that's like, the story is so involved, but it's easy flowing. A lot of story going on, but you keep on reminded of the Invincible and what he has to go through, because he's part of the story, of course, because he's the main character. But overall, beautiful told so far.
Yeah.
36 about 6 issues to be read, and I'm enjoying it. I'm, as I say, reading slowly, one by one issue, whatever I have time to do that. But whatever I read is always like, oh yeah, I need to read them because I'm excited to know what's going to happen next.
To see what happens
because
next.
It's becoming brutal, more like gruesome stuff. And there's like 100 more issues I think to read, so I have a lot of time to read that. So yeah, it will be a while.
Well, I mean, that's the enjoyable stuff about like the serial stuff, right? Like you just know that yes, there's going to be an end, but I've got a long way to go, so I've got a lot of enjoyment ahead of me.
Well, especially if it's really like it's not dragging story, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like some of the
yeah,
stories which are like, let's say Walking Dead for me, where it felt dragging, you know, too
yeah.
far as far as I was reading it. I'd never even finished it because of that. That's just
And this one
anyway,
doesn't
horror.
have any of those so far.
No, no,
Yeah,
this is so far is absolutely from the issue 1 to now the issue 35 I finished. It
yeah,
looks like I just like it went through like a breeze, and I just want to know what's going to happen next because you never know. There's like those, as I say, those supporting characters are getting involved more, or people get into his life, you know, like a real life. Honestly, you know, like people comes into your life and changes the things what's happened, dynamic of your doing stuff, and you know, being a superhero and dealing with all the bad guys, and it
yeah.
seems to be bad guys are popping in from all sorts of places. And don't forget about his heritage, of his dad's heritage, the people, Viltrumites, I think they called, who coming to Earth and
Mhm.
take over or destroy whatever that's going
Yeah,
to happen, which I don't know exactly what
yeah,
will
yeah.
happen. So yeah, just, as I say, really good. I enjoyed it
Well,
thoroughly, whatever I've read. So no, I like not much, but now talking about it, I'm kind of tired talking about it's like, oh, I actually read not so because the stories were so good. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
nice to actually tell the stories I've read because it's
yeah, totally.
memorable. Like the
Yeah.
dinosaur thing, it's just like it was so giddy, kind of like almost like Jurassic Park type of the story kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like them being experimenting. They have this park or zoo kind of type of story where you keep all those dinosaurs and people comes to visit, but then one bad guy comes into place
Hmm.
where we're supposed to be keeping him tame, but then they forgot that DNA is actually much stronger than your science.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that sense, it was really enjoyable. So yeah.
It's there's like a tag in there of that just sparked a thought in my head of like, because
Mm-hmm.
even when I was reading this Evangeline last night, there's sometimes a thing, I don't know if it happens to you too, but
Mm-hmm.
when I'm reading stuff, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's really difficult sometimes just to sit and enjoy a book
Mm-hmm.
for like just pure like enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes get in the mindset and have to, talk to myself like, hey, listen, not everything you read has to be earth
Yeah.
shattering, groundbreaking. And sometimes you can just read stuff just to enjoy it. Because I
Mm-hmm.
found that with Evangeline last night. It's like, well, this isn't really saying much of anything and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like literally telling myself to shut the fuck up and just read the book and don't even worry about it. Right. Like not every line of dialogue has to be earth shattering. And, like not every 2-issue story has to be, oh my God, that's the best thing that changed. It changed the way of comics. It's sometimes
Mm-hmm.
nice to find those series where it's just
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable to read. It's just a nice thing to
Yeah.
sit and read. You know the world, you know the characters, and there's just a
Exactly.
comfort level there, right? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I understand that completely because sometimes I even myself hurry reading, you know, like you hurry through the pages and you don't really take in the storyline. And then something happens with it makes you interested and you're like, but that doesn't make sense because you skim kind of through it
Yeah.
because probably whatever previous story was telling you actually telling you what's going to happen in the future, and you're like,
Mhm.
but and then like sometimes what I think Jared Osborne does, and I think he does it quite often, he says that whatever new comic books he's reading, he read them twice before he puts them away.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
that's actually look, you have to have time of course to do that, but if you have
Yeah.
time to do that, sometimes emotionally when I read emotion, like my emotions are not right or I'm not in the right space of time to read,
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that comic book, but if I go back, I read again, it's like actually this is comic book is not so bad.
Yeah.
Happens
Yeah.
to me quite often with the new comic books. Like I always think I'm gonna like not pull them anymore, like I'm not gonna get them anymore.
Hmm.
But I reread them and I start like rehashing my own story in my mind, and
Yeah.
suddenly it's like clicks and it's like
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
did I even think about it? Like we don't think. You just like it's actually a really good
Mm.
story and well told. So it happens for
I
us,
think
but
I think other people have mentioned it too. Like I think there's a part of it, not that every single thing that I read, I feel like I have to talk about in a video or anything like
yeah,
that. Because
of
there's been
course.
a lot of stuff that I've read that I never have talked about, but I think sometimes that also plays into it in the back of my head too, that like, I know we're going to be talking about stuff. I know that sometimes I do videos, blah, blah, blah. So what would I say about this? And it's like, okay, just forget that, because I can't remember who remember seeing some videos. It might have been a Damien, it might have been an Adam. I don't exactly remember. Just that
Mhm.
idea of, it's not, I'm not reading it for this. You know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah,
reading it
yeah,
for the camera. I'm reading it because I enjoy
yeah,
it. And, like
exactly.
trying to shift your thinking about it. It's not purely reading it just to review, So,
Yeah. So what I've been in that situation when I started doing the videos and all that stuff, and like you start in a hurry. I mean, the excitement was there because like you discover a bit more when you read and you talk about it in your videos and people commenting back and they
yeah,
like telling their opinions about it,
yeah,
and then you like discover more things you have probably missed out. So in that sense, that was really exciting to actually be doing that. But then it became like always the deadline kind of thing you have to meet, like, because if you were consistent in making your videos, oh, you have this day I want to upload it, but then you fight for your uploading time, all that bullshit comes into mind. And then
yeah,
of course you forget that you actually read your comic book, and did you actually enjoy it? Is it actually why you spend so much money for it? Or is
yeah,
it because you just wanted to put your face down and yes, you want to have a conversation? That's the beauty about YouTube comic book community, because if people comment on your videos, that's the enjoyment. The biggest part of my enjoyment was because then I
yeah,
was communicating with people, like-minded people who were talking to me while I was making a video.
yeah. Sorry, just
So
expanded you there to kickstart your stream again. Yeah.
okay. Okay. So
I
yeah,
think it
so
was, and hearing you say that, I'm pretty sure that was one of the main things that Ghost Critic used to say right at the end too.
yeah.
I think that was a big thing for him, that schedule, because you said that word schedule, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what it was. Like you feel like you have to do something, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
But the thing is, yeah, and Ghost Critic was doing it so consistently all the time. I
mhm.
mean, the guy had like he loves reading, but then you could see from him like, oh, I couldn't do this, and you make this kind of excuse of saying, oh, I'm so sorry, blah blah blah, and haven't posted the video. But honestly, I mean,
Yeah,
it's you who's reading it. It's for you. I
that's right.
understand you're gonna put it out, and you want to be like I think what happens is that you start feeling like you let go, you like let your friends down kind of thing, because they expect your video, you're going to be there,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of showing your video, and then you're going to talk about it. It's kind of
yeah,
almost the same situation, not face to face, but in the video form. And I think
yeah,
what we sometimes think about that as well, because like you get to know people, like look, we found out each other from doing comic book videos, and now we're talking
yeah.
like doing this stuff, but now we have other way
After
of
all these
enjoying it.
years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But we finding the way we want to talk about comic books, and then reevaluating why we're doing this for kind of thing, for reading comic books, why we enjoy it so much. Like Dr. Monk was saying all the time, it's like I never thought how, and like the time I had to spare just to look at my comic books, refile my comic books, then find people just to talk about it and just get that spark back, like the spark
yeah,
you used to have of actually sharing the stories you have read. Like
yeah,
now I've been talking to you about this Judge Dredd and can't wait to read again because
yeah,
I
yeah,
know what's going to come up. And that's that's the beauty about it. Like all of the things about reading comic books, about talking on the video, is that you first enjoy yourself, whatever you read. And then if you can, of course, talk to somebody else about it. It's beautiful because
mhm.
it's very difficult to find. I find it really difficult to find like-minded people who actually reads comic books and don't look at you like you're a fucking weirdo, because that's what usually happens. It's like, are you talking about the comic? Like, like comics who do the comedy? It's like, no, I'm talking about actually picture books, you idiot. That's usually my responses.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, and they look at you like, but no, you the idiot, because you're the one who's reading it. It's like, nope.
My favorite
Fucking,
thing is, well, do you read real books as well too?
yeah,
That's my favorite. I've only had that, to be fair, I've only had that once or twice in my life, but there
yeah,
has been that comment. It's like, well, not many, no, honestly. Like comics is 90% of my reading, but yeah,
yeah.
it's a funny one.
And it's
Um,
funny. Yeah,
oh,
go on.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, no, I don't remember what I had there. It was a little while ago, but yeah,
No, at the back of my head, I remember there was I was talking to my mom, and your moms, everybody's moms, they are wonderful people because they will listen to you no matter whatever you're gonna have to blab about.
yeah,
So I decided, because I was so excited after reading comic book, and I usually talk to my mom daily, like from Monday to Friday, all the time, one phone call all the time,
yeah,
because this is the way for me to basically keep tabs on her, as they call
yeah,
it, but
yeah,
not really. It's just to make sure that she's okay and all that
yeah,
stuff. But anyway, so in our conversations, I sometimes put a comic book conversation, and she's like, you could hear from her voice. I don't see her, but you can hear from her voice. I was like, oh shit, she's talking about
Yeah.
comic books again.
Yeah.
And I was like, because like, you talk about TV shows, you talk about movies, but why the
Yeah.
fuck I can't talk about comic books, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
mom, it's like, well, yeah, and she's like so nice. Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah,
relate.
yeah. Sounds very exciting, kind of thing. It's a polite way saying, okay, can we stop talking about comic books now?
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's like
yeah,
talking to my wife about it. Same thing. She'll say the same thing. Oh, you can see that, she's being polite and listening. And sometimes I have hooked her a couple of times, I will say, with
yeah.
something. She'll
Well,
find interest in it. But yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of like some of the stuff like intriguing enough if you tell them, like, because you can spoil the shit out of it, of the
Yeah,
comic book,
that's right.
because they
Yeah,
wouldn't
exactly.
care. So
Yeah.
that's the easy part of telling the story, like when
Yeah.
we talk like on video here, you try not to spoil it because we want people to actually read the comic book if they can, of course.
Yeah.
But then when you talk to your parents or your husband or wife,
Yeah.
you can spoil the shit. You can from the
Totally.
beginning till the end. And I was
Yeah.
telling the story of a scumbag for my husband, and
Okay.
I
Yeah.
spoiled the crap out of it. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh wow, this is actually not bad comic book." It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because sometimes you can really convince him to read comic books, but he
Mhm.
doesn't have time, doesn't have attention span. He says, no, I can't do this anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then but those kind of things you can talk about people, but those people you talked about and spoil the shit out of it, they don't care. And that's
Yeah.
unfortunate part.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't care about it, but I do. So just be nice to me, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
my mom's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I am very nice to you, but stop talking about
Humor
this
me
shit.
for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about yourself rather, not about some story you have read.
And I mean, I think something this is what I was going to say earlier. That's one of the things about this rediscovery again, like because I've started doing this on kind of like twice a year basis, going through the boxes, that
Yeah.
time of sitting with it again and rediscovering stuff that you've enjoyed and kind of discovering stuff in the boxes that maybe you haven't given a fair shake to. Like it was tied in with you saying reading stuff twice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That type of thing, this rediscovery of some of these stories and giving them a second shot and something resonating differently, or it being just as enjoyable as the first time, or having a second look and going, actually it's not really much of anything. But it's also part of that kind of ritual of doing that has been really fun too, especially lately, going through every single one of these and pulling stuff out. And there was a few boxes, especially when I was going through my magazines, which I don't go through as often. I don't go through the magazines twice a year. They pretty much just sit there. So there's stuff in these boxes that I haven't thought about or flipped through in a long time. And it was so much fun. I think I spent two nights going through the magazine boxes, at least maybe 3 nights. There was some boxes where every other one that I was pulling out, I was stopping, opening it up, flipping through it, reading a couple of the little pages, a few pages here and there, especially some of the older anthologies that I have. And it was so much fun to sit in. And again, that size and that format is working for me in general these days, but it was so great to kind of rediscover some of those magazines in there that I have buried that I haven't thought about in forever. I mean, the boxes aren't that accessible, which is another reason why I don't often flip through them, right? They're just piled on top of them, but that was super fun. The other thing that I was going to talk about last week, which I forgot to afterwards, do you watch Noah Van Sciver's videos? I'm always worried that I'm going to get his name mixed up with his fucking horrible brother, but his videos, his channel, I've become such a fan. Like I'm still watching the kayfabe stuff. They've been doing all that Halloween videos, a daily video, it seems. And there's been some really, really great videos there. But I'm telling you, there's something about this Van Sciver's videos that I'm absolutely loving. Like and there's quite a few interviews there with artists that I don't know. Casanova Frankenstein, for example, was a pretty good interview. I'm not super familiar with his comics. I know them to see them, but I don't think I've ever read one. And there was a number of people like that on there. What a series of videos. The interviews are really, really, they seem really genuine. There's a little bit, insider baseball kind of talk in there as well too. But then there's just general talk about their love of comics and some of the stories and how they tell stories. And he had a Pete Bagg one recently, the guy
Okay.
from Stuff and Hate, that I watched and completely loved it.
Mhm.
And there was a couple of sections in that one where Bagg was talking about, because his character buddy Bradley that I was talking about it a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
throughout the years has been optioned for TV, for movies, for animation, et cetera, et cetera. So
Wow.
he's like, I've had many, many deals with people. Nothing has ever come to pass. I get
Mhm.
paid. I write a script. I write a treatment. They option it for a little while because he's not selling the character off, and he just
Mhm.
collects a paycheck. It's just another way for him to collect a paycheck. And he was
Wow.
talking about, how has it been working in that kind of industry? He's like, honestly, I have never worked in an industry where people will lie to your face on a daily basis. He's like, I haven't had a single positive experience with dealing with anybody involved in that industry. And I lost it just laughing because there's a lot of shady people in a lot of different businesses, for sure there is, but there's
Mhm.
something extra special about some of the people like producers and that sort of thing in the film and
Mhm.
TV industry. That's just like, they're just complete motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
hearing him talk about his experience, like, I just don't know how it could be translated. First of all, I don't know if it worked because those
Mhm.
comics are so 90s, like they're really of that era,
Mhm.
being in that time period. I don't know if it would translate to an
Mhm.
audience now, that kind of like slacker of a guy, and dealing with that kind of
Yeah.
scene and the music that was happening then. I don't really know how you would update it. I mean, maybe he absolutely could, and I'm 100% wrong, but it really
Mhm.
feels like something that's really specifically of that time that
Mhm.
couldn't really exist anywhere else. But honestly, like all of Ethan's video, or Ethan, fuck,
Yes.
I'm gonna get confused. Noah Van
Yeah.
Sciver's videos.
Yeah. Don't
They're
mention Eve.
really, really well worth watching. He's a really interesting guy, and just some really genuine conversations. It seems it's a little more low key than kind of like the kayfabe guys. They're not as, they're not just firing all these questions at
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
interview subject or whatever. It's more a genuine conversation.
Mhm.
Super enjoyable. Yeah.
Well, I think you mentioned prior, and I think I forgot about because you know that link you were sending me with the bone Jeff. What is his name? Jeff.
Oh yeah, that was on another channel. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that other channel I've been watching more because I like
Yep.
the conversations because the guy he's so angry about the COVID and stuff. He keep
He
on
sure
telling
is.
public announcement, wear your fucking mask.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Every single video is so
Yeah.
in that sense. I kind of like he's not like, I'm not telling you any difference, but like you just have a conversation with people, and I think he's like, I don't know him, to be honest, and I'm sad to
No, me
say
neither.
that because he's like I think he's a comic book artist as well, or he's known in comic book industry because it seems to be every single person he's interviewed, they know him quite well because
Yeah.
they, like the way they talk, it looks like more relaxed. So
Yeah.
anyway, now I'm feeling really guilty for not knowing that person's name, so I'm gonna go
Yeah.
check it out.
I'm blanking as well too.
Yeah, because that's
Did
what I
you
will
watch
do.
the Jeff Smith interview?
Well, there you go, you just told me the name.
Oh, the guy from the Bone. Okay. I thought you meant the host of that channel because I don't
No,
remember the
no, no.
host's name of that
No,
channel.
no, I don't know the host name, but I'm talking. Yeah, but I started watching it, and I was really interested because I had to be, like I've been doing something else. I've been baking a lot. That's not really good story about that anyway. But I was starting to listening to his conversation, and it's really
Okay.
interesting. He's talking about, like, we talked about Star Wars. Actually, they mentioned like, don't start talk about Star Wars now. And it's like we talk like two friends randomly, kind of like we do. We
Yeah,
come
yeah.
up. He has this question in the back of his head, and he just blabs it out. So, what do you think about, like, do you like Star Trek as well, kind of thing? And all that kind of conversation. So really interesting story. So I'm definitely gonna finish it. But his interviews are
Yeah.
great so far.
Yeah.
It looks like a bit more relaxed as well. It doesn't feel like you say kayfabe. It's like a bit too scripted.
Yeah.
Let's say this way,
Well,
kind of
kayfabe, I
thing.
think they really want to dig in. They have some things that they want to ask, and they're really
Yeah,
approaching it from like a professional standpoint and a historical
yeah.
standpoint, which Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, I absolutely
Yeah.
love,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I do like these other things, like the kind of more relaxed tone, because I think you're right. It seems like the
Hmm.
relationships that are there, they're
Yeah.
more of, the kayfabe guys are sometimes a little bit more fanboyish, which I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm not. I'm 100% fanboy sometimes,
Yeah.
um, but these other ones, they seem a little more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, the thing is it's sometimes it's easier to listen to somebody just having a conversation, and
yeah,
you get the feed of information from the person you actually listen to of the interview, like him from creating the bone, and
yeah.
how he's been trying to, like, just how he fought out, how his history was before that, why he's doing the comic books, that kind of stuff, like even Star Wars, Star Trek situation. Like lots of people talking, are you Star Wars or are you Star Trek? And he's like, can I be
Yeah,
both? Is it that
yeah,
is that
yeah,
okay? Are you okay with that kind of thing?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
some people get so pro about that. And for example, I'm all Star Trek, by the way, but I do enjoy Star Wars. Like for example, watching Mandalorian.
Okay, the second season. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only one episode. We watched it today
Okay.
before we chat.
Yep.
Fantastic. John
Yeah.
Favreau, he is a brilliant director. He is
Oh.
really, really good when it comes to Star Wars stuff
Hmm.
because it's simple. It's a simple formula, but it just works. There's nothing. I mean, you have him, Mandalorian, coming into, like, for example, this story was, I'm not going to spoil it because it's just, he
Yeah.
comes into the town, and because he has this agenda of looking for somebody, he needs to go through another person who has information and gets that information, and then suddenly, because of that information, he needs to do something for them in order to disclose something. So
Hmm.
that's basically a basic storytelling, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have him in an action scenes, or doing his Mandalorian stuff. So basically they are a good killers, kind of thing. So they go like, how they call them now, I lost the word for
Like
that.
bounty hunter.
Kinda, yeah, exactly. Yeah, bounty hunters.
Yep.
And so because he has this Yoda guy, because you know about the Yoda guy, yes?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm not spoiling you about Yoda.
No, I mean, I know a little bit. Like, you can spoil it. Don't even sweat it. Like, I haven't seen the
No,
first
I'm not gonna
season yet
spoil
either,
much,
but
but you know that Yoda is a baby in the
I do
storyline.
know
Yes?
that. Yeah, 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 I know that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Because
he
I
has
see
this.
that fucking image all over the place on the internet. It seems like
Ex-
it's everywhere I turn.
yeah.
Baby
Yeah.
Yoda. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's there and he's super cute. That's why people are going
Yep.
fucking crazy for that. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
basically a puppy with a
yeah,
really beautiful those eyes, and he's like making those cute
yeah,
noises. Especially the
yeah,
mother's like, "Oh my god, he's such a baby!" Because it reminds you of your baby basically because he makes those same noises, kind of thing.
yeah.
All that crap. But anyway, so he has his baby and him doing the bounty hunting kind of thing, or doing the stuff what he's trying to achieve basically, and then he's going through the story, and it's just simple storytelling. He gets information, goes to do something for them, gets the information, next story.
Yeah.
And that's how it's been. But the scenes, I think, as a movie knowledge of your movie watching is much higher, and you probably would pickpocket everything or whatever. You say, "Oh, this is shit. I know what they did in there,"
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this is like this scene is probably, oh yeah, you could have done better. This
yeah,
acting,
yeah.
but the beauty of that Mandalorian, you don't see his face,
Okay.
but he still, through this voice, he portrays quite a nice emotion for me, to
Hmm.
me, as I was watching, and so far it's extremely entertaining
Yeah, yeah,
because it has the action you need. It's giving you a storyline, gives you a bit of a background. Apparently, he's playing around with the history of Star Wars as well, because
okay.
John Favreau is like, we're calling my next George Lucas,
Oh, wow,
because
really,
of
eh?
yeah, because of he has that ability of producing a storyline without needing so much, kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how he does, because you know he's been in the
He
Avenger
directed a
movies.
couple of Marvel movies too, didn't he?
Yes, because he's
Okay, okay.
involved in Iron Man. If you watch all the Avenger movies and stuff, I think his name
Yeah,
will be plastered all over the
that's
place.
right.
He's even acting in
Yeah,
some of them as well, like Spider-Man movies. He's
that's
acting
right.
in them
Yeah.
as a bodyguard and the guy. So anyway, so yeah, so far it's really good. And Taika Waititi, I think, he's supposed to be involved as well in Mandalorian. And
Hmm.
Taika, because of the what he done in the Thor and what he's gonna do in future Thor, he's kind
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
next coming director for the mainstream stuff. So
Yeah.
highly recommend it if you want to watch it, The Mandalorian. It's nothing like if you say it's like too much baggage of Star Wars stuff. It's not really.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually fresh eyes. You just watch it, and you probably definitely gonna enjoy it because it's
I
the way
really want to. It's just my TV watching is so like
minimal.
it's so rare that I sit in front of a TV and watch TV. Like when I watch YouTube, and I mean
Mhm,
like the past couple of days I've been watching QI. I've been watching a bunch of stuff because they have a ton of it on YouTube. So I've been
mhm,
watching a lot of those episodes, which has just been fun. Like it's so rare for me to sit in front of that TV and like turn on Netflix. I don't think I've done that, or Disney, or any of the channels. You know what I mean? Like
mhm. Yeah.
we actually saying that we only have the Disney Plus and
Mhm,
Netflix. I don't think we have anything else.
mhm,
Yeah, no, we don't have anything else. We definitely don't have Amazon. But I mean, so it's just not something that's part of my
mhm,
MO these days. I just don't. And there's a huge list of stuff, but
mhm,
Mandalorian is definitely at the top. And for me, like I think we talked about it when we were doing videos with Adam, especially
mhm,
with the first season, because I know how they did a lot of that stuff, and I'm really curious to see
mhm,
how they pulled it off, because the behind the scenes stuff is fucking
mhm,
incredible. The technology they used is super
uh-huh,
super impressive, and I would love to see just how they pull it off in a storytelling way, right?
mhm.
But I just
Apparently,
haven't.
yeah, apparently they're gonna use like they using what they because of popularity of Mandalorian and what they be able to portray in the whole scenery, like you say, the use of technology they
Yeah,
able to do. Apparently, some more like even Taika was saying that he's gonna maybe gonna use it in Thor, so that's gonna be
amazing.
exciting because at the end of the day, he's a very clever director as well. I mean,
Yeah,
making from being shit Thor kind of thing, people don't want to talk about it, to
yeah,
only about the main actor, but now talking about the story and people like I really enjoyed his story last story of Thor. He was really good at portraying the comedy part with the
yeah,
Hulk and him, that all the battle scenes and all that, and
yeah,
the face Thor did when he saw Hulk. Oh, it's my friend! Oh, my
yeah, yeah,
friend! The Hulk is like
yeah.
fantastic, and portraying all that. It's just beautiful. Anyway,
Yeah, I
in
think
in
they start
general,
filming I saw something today. They start filming it in January. I think that new Thor movie.
hmm oh,
Yeah.
mind the comments. Just watched the Doctor Strange yesterday for the first time. Wow.
Oh, hey.
Hopefully, you enjoyed it. I hope. Oh, it was entertaining. He said.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one, and Paulo makes a good one. I watched The Fifth Element. I don't know, earlier this year, I think, for the
Uh-huh,
second time, or maybe it was late last year. I don't remember.
uh-huh,
And it was something that I really enjoyed the first time. I didn't enjoy nearly as much the second time. Like visually, it was incredible. Like visually,
yeah.
I really liked it. I found I didn't like it on a second viewing, but there was some really really cool looking stuff in it.
Well, and Go Vidal has rewatched American Gigolo.
Yeah,
I'm
last
not
night, one of
sure
his
if I
favorite
have.
movies.
I'm not sure if I watched it because the name sounds familiar, but that's for me. When I go without movies, there's some certain
Yeah,
amount of information I can keep, but then suddenly says somebody, "Oh, have you seen this?" Like like those movie buffs, which is I hate the most to talk to because I
yeah,
am like, describe me the person you're talking about in the scene. Maybe I'll remember if I've seen it because that's one of my husband's beauty. Like when he talks about movies, he
yeah,
says to me, "Oh, do you remember this movie?" It's like, okay, maybe. I
yeah,
always say maybe, but then tell
yeah,
me what was it going on there, and it suddenly
yeah,
sparks me memory because names does not do nothing, especially the like some of them, of course, because if it's like more memorable for me, but the ones I probably enjoyed it, but it's just still is maybe somewhere in my memory, but I never keep it the whole information because somebody says like, have you watched like let's say Watchmen? I do remember that movie anyway. I watched it, but
yeah.
like I just don't remember. Just people need to describe me the actual situation what happened, and then suddenly, oh
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
probably watched it.
The other thing I was going to say, what you were talking about, like filming Thor and doing
Yeah.
Mandalorian, and
Mm-hmm.
we were talking before the stream, we were talking about electric vehicles and stuff. Like,
Uh-huh.
I think at some point you do have to embrace the technology, and it's great to hear that he's thinking
Mm-hmm.
of using the same technology for Thor, because clearly there's something there, right? And I mean, I know it's
Yeah.
always a bit of a crapshoot, especially when it comes to entertainment And I mean,
Mm.
even my time working in film and TV, the technology has changed. The red camera was going to be the camera of the future, and that was the one. And then that changed like a year later, and then that changed again. And then we're seeing lighting technology changing, and we're seeing LED technology changing.
Mhm.
It's cool to hear that people are embracing it though, because that's again like the thing that I loved about Doctor Strange. The story was great. Like I didn't have many problems with the story itself, but for
Mhm.
me, the meat of that movie was the visuals and the way that they took those visuals to another level. And I sound a little
Mhm.
like a broken record, but it
Mhm.
is really impressive to see people using this technology and presenting us with imagery in
Mhm.
film that we haven't seen before,
Yeah.
and it feels like it's the same with the clips that I've seen from Mandalorian when we were watching the kind of
Mhm.
making of stuff that we were, I think, in the summertime, no, or maybe early in the year, me and a couple of friends of mine,
Mhm.
just seeing them really embrace that, and how can we utilize that, and how can we like blend it with like real sets. And I mean, the stuff in Doctor Strange that worked really worked, because it feels like we're getting to a point where we can present these images and this imagery that is kind of something we've never even imagined, because that technology is there. So it's gonna be cool to see what they do. I'm looking forward to the new Thor as well too. I think
Mhm.
it'll be fun.
The go without just probably describe the movie, and I think I've seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
because
There you
because
go.
Richard Gere and the situation and all that stuff is just clicked for me, and yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I actually want to watch now as well. And the sorceress type part, I always found it. I always nitpick it about the strangest movie, Doctor Strange, about him becoming that supreme magician. It was
Yeah.
too fast,
Yeah.
but how do you tell a story enough in a short period of time where the person who doesn't know anything about magic becomes this sorcerer supreme, but don't bore you while you're watching it on TV screen? Because most of the people, unfortunately, to this day, doesn't have enough. Or we always complain that we're saying that movies are so long these days
Yeah.
because they keep on telling you how, like telling the story which they want to tell properly, but then people complain, oh my god, it's 3 hours, I have to sit in the cinema and watch this movie, you know what I mean? But then
Yeah.
keep you entertained and engaged throughout all that time. So
Yeah.
yeah, probably there is some clever people, but I think what they try to achieve, and like you say about the visuals of the movie, that's the winning part, because that
Mhm.
trippy parts where our Cumberbatch had to go through when she pushed him through his like open your mind kind of thing, that was
Fucking
superb.
phenomenal.
Yeah, and those hands freaked the shit out of me. I can't even think of, like, close
Yeah.
my eyes, I can see them. But that Dormammu situation where he kept on flipping the jump, that was fantastic because of reaction of the villain. It's like, what's going on here? And then it's like, oh, I can do it anytime I feel like, kind of thing. Like when he was jumping through time and playing around with Dormammu's mind.
Hmm.
That was my favorite scene because of the
Hmm.
visuals and of the villain who wasn't really kind of we didn't know who he is. He's the bad guy kind of thing, but didn't need to enclose the his background to understand that he's a bad guy kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Well,
what
and I
my
think
favorite.
I think that mainstream movies just have to embrace that. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to see a blockbuster. You're going to they just have to embrace it. If you're going to get people in the theater and spend the amount of money that it takes, like pretty much the only thing that we go to see in theaters anymore are the Marvel movies. We don't often go to theater. I mean, I went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the theater because I had to see Tarantino in the theater. I've seen every other Tarantino in a theater besides Reservoir Dogs, because that was before my
Mm-hmm.
notice of who the hell this guy was. But I
Yeah.
mean, other than that, we only go to see Marvel movies. We don't go to see any other movies. I'll wait to get it online, or I'll wait to, I'll wait
Yeah.
to get Blu-ray even, and I went to see The Witch too. So there's very, very limited things that I'll go to see in a movie.
Mhm.
They've got to embrace that shit. You've got to embrace the technology. You've got to embrace the spectacle. It's got to happen, right? It's
Mhm.
the only thing that's going to get people out. But I don't disagree with any of the plot points. It's just when I go to see those, I'm not thinking about plot. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to
Yeah.
read a DC or Marvel comic, I ain't going to be thinking about plot. Oh, and that's the
Mhm.
other thing that actually I didn't leave out. that I did want to talk to you about, and I didn't. It's all buried in the boxes right now. But the other thing that I read recently was, and I think I posted some photos. I finally found a missing issue of the Avengers
Yeah,
comic
yeah, I've seen that.
16 that tied
Uh-huh.
in with a bunch of Defenders stories. So it was like
Oh,
four and
wow.
four,
Hmm.
and they were amazingly fun. That was an amazingly fun little chunk to read. Um,
Nice.
there was some ups and downs for sure, but I mean, when you think of comics and when you think of mainstream comics and when you think of like kids going and buying a comic book, man,
Yeah.
you were getting everything in there. You were getting a Thor Hulk fight. You were
Hmm.
getting the Vision fighting the Silver Surfer, which was I think my favorite issue because it took
Wow.
place. It was a fight in a volcano and it was fucking incredible. So I
Which
just
issue is that?
I'll write them. I don't know off the top of my head.
You
I'll
don't
write
have to
them. I'll
tell
send
me,
you a message about it. Yeah.
because I
Uh,
definitely that now you just tell me Silver Surfer because I like Silver Surfer in comic books, and if you're just fighting the Vision, that kind of how do you do them together? Because Vision has shitloads of powers, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Silver Surfer is as powerful as anybody, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah.
It was really well done, and honestly, like a little bit of a peek in the window of this kind of the big epics that we're dealing with in comics for the last bunch of years. I think it was
Hmm.
done really really well. The crossover, but I mean, you're getting the full Avengers team, you're getting the full Defenders team, and you're getting them fighting each other. You're getting Hawkeye, who's now in these
Hmm.
issues, he's a part of the Defenders. He's left
Oh,
the Avengers and he's kind of joined their team briefly, very very briefly,
yeah.
because at the end he wants to leave again because his whole thing is I want to be out there and see what I can do on my own without relying on a
Yeah, yeah.
team and that sort of thing. So, but it was just such a fun 8 issues.
Hmm.
And it was based around the Black Knight, I believe is the character's name, who had
Yeah.
been turned into a statue, and they were trying to
Wow.
get. And it turns out it was like Dormammu kind of pulling the
Of course.
strings in the background and stuff like this. Like it was
Wow.
just so much fun. It was a really I polished them off in one night, like I said, because they were really easy to read. They were really really
Wow.
quick reads, but they were so much fun to sit with. I'm really really glad that I found the issues.
Sure.
I made a couple of notes as well too because within a
Hmm.
couple of the stories they reference a couple
Some
of
other.
earlier issues as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
like they were talking about Fantastic Four number 54, Thor
Uh-huh.
194, Thor 207, just to give a little more background. So I wrote down four other issues that I'd like to pick up just to give a little more kind of meat to this little storyline.
Good luck
Um,
with 50, Fantastic Four 54, because that's like Black Panther because 52 is when he was introduced. So those other
I
two issues is after, right? That, but maybe you never know now.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if I find them digitally,
Yeah,
even that'll be
yeah.
fine. Just to
Hmm.
kind of get a little bit more of a sense. But it's kind of cool reading that era too. That just some of the language,
Hmm.
it's like Stanley at the height of kind of his
Hmm.
exposition and stuff, or maybe not the height, but you're dealing with that
Yeah.
kind of exposition. But
Hmm.
honestly, my favorite issue was the issue where it was Vision and Silver Surfer fighting. I just thought it was a really great way, and I just
I want
imagine
to watch it now.
being a kid and picking that comic off the rack and
Yeah,
seeing like your favorite heroes like beating the shit out of each other, right? Like
yeah.
that's what you're buying it for. Everybody makes an appearance in those comics, even if it's
Hmm.
just in a couple of panels, you're getting people that don't even play a big part in the story itself making little appearances, right? So
Yeah,
super,
yeah.
super fun.
Yeah, and I always found it fascinating with Vision because of it's just a mysterious part of the Vision who he was, and then the involvement of Scarlet Witch. And but I
Yeah.
always been looking for the like time like there's people who recommended what like to read, but usually those comic books are in Avengers, which is quite pricey, the older stuff. But I
Hmm.
always want to read the story of them together, kind of thing, because I know there is
Yeah.
like they even have family. Some. Of course, I read the new one, which was written by Tom King, is the only thing I really, really enjoyed from the beginning to the end.
Hmm.
I mean, not the only thing I actually like. He done a really great series of Green Lanterns because I'm a fan of Green Lanterns as well,
Yeah.
and I like that mini maxi series of 12 issues he did as well for DC. So so that it was very entertaining. So something of One Division and wanted to read, but I never find it. But I guess I presume I have to go through like all the Avengers, because I know they had some period of time when they were telling stories of those two guys. But
Yeah,
because
correct. Yeah.
it's a less information I know about them. And like, of course, I watched all the blockbuster movies, but whatever they portrayed in the storyline is there. But knowing what Tom King wrote, and they saying that they're probably gonna, because there's TV shows coming out as well
Hmm. Yep.
of those two guys, and then they look the shots they were blasting all over the internet was really
Yeah.
cool, because they were
Yeah. It
going
looks
in
really
that
cool.
era. Because I like, like Lady Killer is one of my favorite comic books from Jolene Jones,
Yeah.
which is superb telling, by the way, about the female assassin.
Yep.
So they going that era where I really enjoyed, like 1950s. I don't know what's going on, that fascination about that, but I
Hmm.
really enjoy the like the fashion and everything, and people's kind of mindset. And especially if you, because I don't watch horror movies, but my mom loves horror movies, and she loved
Yeah.
the old school horror movies where it really fucking freaking the shit out of me. So I
Yeah.
kind of recall in that era she watched some movie. It's just like there's this lady who she had a stab through her neck, and
Uh-huh.
the actual blade was protruding through here, so you could actually see it, and she was like choking. And that's what I
Yeah.
was watching when I was a child, and that
That's
completely,
that's pretty heavy.
yeah, that freaked the shit out of me. I wasn't sleeping for a while after that, and my mom was like saying, "Why you were like?" She always shushed me away, but I was the child who basically wanted to be with my like go to my parents' bedroom, because when I wasn't sleeping well, I was to go all the time. So, and my mom
Yep.
was always the horror movie watcher at really late at night, because in my country used to be showing that time usually. And I every single time I opened the doors and my mom watching some horror movie, and I was like, freak out on the background. Because it's like, what are you doing here? What's going on? So she
Yeah.
freaks out while she's watching it, but in the same time she's entertained. So
Yeah.
anyway,
The other thing I would say about that little Defenders Avengers arc, like when I
yeah,
found that final Avengers issue, I
yeah.
ended up having to pay $8 Canadian for it. But
Hmm.
if I'm remembering correctly, that might have been the most that I paid for any of the comics in that little bit of an arc. So I feel
Wow.
like, if my memory is correct on this, I feel like they were all fairly cheap to, obviously I bought reader grade copies. I'm not buying no high
Yeah,
grade
yeah,
shit like for that stuff. I don't care
right.
if there's, a rip in it or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I believe that they're all pretty affordable. Like that, there's
Uh-huh.
nothing. I don't think there's anything that happens in there where it's like, oh, this is the first time that happens, so that means that's going to be a $9,000 book to get your hands on.
Yeah.
So I think $8 was probably around the most that I paid for any one of those issues,
Jesus, that's
and that's
very
eight
cheap.
bucks Canadian. So that's probably like £4 for you or £5 or something like that. I think we're still roughly at double. You know what I mean when it comes to the translation of money.
And every single time I look for Defenders comic book, it's always usually about above £10 most
Oh,
of the
really?
time,
Okay. Okay.
especially the earlier ones. So it's like
Oh, really?
single digit numbers, or like 2-digit numbers. Usually,
Yep.
like that's the thing. Because after 100, because they know that the stories are a bit shitty after 100, because I sparingly have some of issues there, but
Yep.
the before ones they're usually much pricier, because of course the height
Okay.
of the movie, of the Avengers movie, and then they were telling about this Defenders comic book and all that stuff, that they're going to be Defenders probably, and all that
Yep.
hype basically put the prices up, of course,
Yep. So
because
I pulled out the next four that I'm reading. So it must have been issues 11, 10, 9, and 8, I think, for the Defenders. So I think it was 8, 9,
yeah.
10, 11. If I remember that right. I believe it was 4 issues. And I
Mhm.
think that the Avengers was like 111, 112, 113,
Uh-huh.
and 114. But I'll double check and I'll make sure that I send
I
that to
want
you.
to.
So I did read this one. And
Oh.
I don't know if it was coming off of that series, off of
Hmm.
that little run there. I'll make the screen a bit bigger here.
Yeah.
Um, but this one fell so flat. It was a Len
Oh.
Wein. It was a Len Wein issue as well. Who generally I think is a pretty fine writer. This
Yeah.
Titan came back, and there was an appearance in when they were doing um, Marvel Fanfare, Marvel Feature, I think,
Yeah.
where Defender
Teacher.
first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was in one of those issues, and it was just there was just there was some moments with the Hulk
Hmm.
walking through nature and enjoying nature that was a little odd,
What?
just oddly worded. And then a tree attacks Hulk,
What?
and you find out that this Titan is kind of controlling the elements,
Hmm.
because he finally makes the appearance, and the usual of like, do you remember the last time we met, and this sort of thing, um,
Hmm.
and the Hulk's relationship with Doctor Strange, calling him the stupid magician and all these kind of things. There was just something about the way this one was told,
Hmm.
and backing up also about Stan Lee, because it's not actually Stan Lee that wrote any of those other ones, is what I'm remembering. But it was
Hmm.
that kind of dialogue in those
Yeah.
previous issues. This one just doesn't have that, but it just really falls flat. There was just something that it just didn't work for me. It was a little maybe too silly. I don't know. Um, I mean, I'm enjoying reading these Defenders issues, and like I'm in no rush whatsoever to read them. Like I now have the first 100 issues, and I do plan to kind of make my way through them, but I'm reading them so sporadically.
Hmm.
I was disappointed. I was a little disappointed, but
Yeah.
again, that might have been because it was right on the heels of reading that kind of crossover that was just so much fun. This one just didn't have that same sense of fun with it, but it's not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop reading them by any stretch, but
And especially that cover, I always like the cover to it, or it looks like so entertaining. And then the Doctor Strange and Walker is hanging there. It's like, oh my
yeah,
God, what's gonna happen?
totally.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like
and then
those.
just seeing some of these other covers, like they're
Yeah,
it's such a great team for me. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
exactly some of these characters, and anything with Doctor Strange is gonna be
hmm,
badass. I mean,
yeah.
that's a fantastic cover. I just have the
Oh,
next four pulled because I'm reading them 4 issues at a time, and then kind of pulling out the next 4 issues
yeah, I can see
instead of
your
having
Black
a
Knight.
huge pile sitting there. You know what I mean? So
Uh-huh.
yeah, they're a lot of fun. And the doctor is great. Yeah, and I agree with you. Having them in the background like that,
Mm,
it's a cool cover
yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
There's those trick covers where you get so excited, and then if it doesn't pan out in the inside a comic book, you get like, oh, so
yeah,
disappointed.
yeah, totally. I got to see what happens in there, and it's like, oh, that's what happened. I
Yeah,
guess that's
yeah.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we complain about the comic books and all those great covers, but sometimes you don't get that same story or excitement, or even doesn't translate in those kind like times. The covers usually translate what's inside, but
yeah,
some of it, the comic books in this day and age is just like a plaster, like a poster of beauty, rather just to attract your eye, so you can actually buy the comic book rather than
yeah,
actually telling the story, which is kind of like in a way I think it's a miss sometimes, but I can understand. Of course, you have to somehow grab people's attention,
yeah,
especially with a choice you have these day and age. So
yeah,
somehow you need to stand out.
yeah. No,
Most of the time, if you have a good shot of the ass and the boob, it usually works out, and attention spam is
hey man,
true. Yeah, it sells out straight
works for
away.
me. It works.
Yeah, I bet.
The other thing that I wanted to just kind of,
Whoa,
I won't show you all of these, but these are some of
whoa.
the trades that I made. But one of the things that I'm excited about, and again, it's
Uh-huh.
uh, the comic addicts. I got a chunk of, so I had the 1984, and
Mhm.
now there was a guy on the comic addicts who was selling 1994.
Oh
And I
wow.
think these came out to like just over $1 an issue for me. And I think I got what, 12 of them?
Mhm.
369. Yeah, it looks like 12 of them. So yeah, just over $1 a piece.
Mhm.
An incredible deal. And it was a guy that, he bought
Mhm.
a lot of stuff, and these were just doubles because he's collecting the 1984 and the
Mhm.
1994 series. So speaking of eye-catching
Indeed.
covers, I'll just show you covers. I haven't read any of these yet at all, but I flipped through them, and it's just great Warren stuff.
Well, you see, that's what I'm talking about. That's the
Exactly. That's
perfect.
exactly what made me think about it. But the thing is, with some of these, it does translate. Like one of the
Mhm.
stories that I'm really excited to read in here
Mhm.
is Frank Thorne. This Gita
Oh. Oh.
series is in here, and I'll just show you. Yeah, Gita of Alazar by Frank Thorne, and it's serialized in a bunch of these, and I'm
Okay.
super excited to read it because I love Frank Thorne's art. I can't
Mhm.
say the minimal Frank Thorne that I've read, I can't say that I'm a huge fan of his writing, but I do love his art style. And I mean,
Uh-huh.
like they know who they're gearing these towards. Oh, and then there's a nice back cover as well too. They do know
Because
who
it's
they're gearing towards, and I'm just one of those guys. Like, if you're gonna do a story of a woman who's kicking everybody's ass, I'm on board, man. I'm there. But I mean,
she
his style
really
is so cool.
she looks like Red Sonja.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like
Because I
big,
think
like
he would,
lot.
yeah, because of the hair, the eyes,
Yep,
the expression of pleasure
yep.
while she's riding a horse. That's the most, that panel
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the
I never thought
that
of that
probably
actually. Yeah, you're
probably a
right.
good ride.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
there, there you
that's a
go. That's
great.
exactly her face. Do you
Yeah,
think he kind of like this is her, and he's telling us the story of her?
it might be. I don't know much about that character, to be
Yeah.
honest. I just know that it's one that I've always wanted to check out, and I just haven't had the opportunity. So, and again, like this is me picking these up are purely because of guys like Damien and Adam, who both have said, "Oh yeah, no, you've got to hunt these down because you'll love
Oh,
them."
oh, look at those covers, man. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
no, the covers are great, and again, like even the interiors of them, I'll stop in a couple issues and we'll just flip through one. I mean, it's not Corbin, but that has a real Corbin vibe to it. That
Uh-huh.
cover.
Yeah, I was thinking
I'm,
you would
I'm
say, but he has like Star Wars characters in there as well, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, look at that one. That reminds me of that movie, or the Alien, but next the newest one, the
yeah,
Leviathan. Is that's the name? Yeah, that looks like
yeah.
the
I mean,
scene
it,
of
it
that.
looks like it's got to be a Geiger cover, HR Geiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, cover HR Geiger. Yeah.
Wow, look at you.
So I'll just flip through. I'll kind of show you one of these here. So there's kind of like the title page
Uh
of
huh.
what you're getting in it.
Uh huh.
And it's just they're so much fun, man. This era, and again, it's like the paper quality as well, and you're
I'm
getting the
jealous.
black and white stories.
Well, look at those boobies everywhere. And it's like, ooh.
Got the movies everywhere. Well, and that's the thing. It feels like this was the Warren. This was the
Mm-hmm.
Warren comic where they were getting a little more adult content. You know what I mean? Where it was maybe
Yeah.
again one of those trying to bridge the gap between kind of
Mm-hmm.
underground and mainstream, right? But still
Yeah.
keeping a lot of this adult content in it.
Yeah.
And probably cashing in on the success of things like heavy metal, right? So
Yeah. I wonder. I hope the stories will be as entertaining as what you're showing to me, because the art is so beautiful, man. Look at this.
look at that.
Oh,
That's an emaciated prisoner. It's great. It's just really great stuff.
mm,
Yeah, and then there's Frank Thorne again.
yeah.
So it's good
That
to see that this story continues through the whole run.
mhm. So I think because it's just the way he draws his females, that's why we think it's probably Red Sonja. But like the way she's a warrior kind of princess, like Cena, like that's what I associate with warrior princess, because I
Yeah.
used to watch a lot of that TV show, of course.
Oh fuck,
And
so did I.
she's
It was my favorite show.
oh yeah. I mean, she was badass with that circle ring, whatever not the boomerang, but that
100%.
ring.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
And they
She
were incredible characters. Like they were just
yeah.
incredible characters.
Oh,
I loved Xena, Warrior Princess. That was me and
mm,
my wife at the time. We religiously, like Jaden's mom, we
uh-huh.
religiously watched that one. We were huge
Yeah.
fans of it.
Beautiful covers. I bet it's all oil paintings. It looks like it though.
Yeah,
Not
definitely
all of
seems
them, but
like it.
oh, look at this is trippy.
Yeah, yeah. It
Invaders
must have
come.
been, both of these 1984 and 1994 must have really been. It feels like they really took influence from heavy metal. Not that there's not a ton of other magazines out there that didn't do the same thing.
Imagine games. I mean, the technology we have. Imagine games being this visually stunning.
Imagine playing a video game that fucking looked like this, or seeing but this ties in exactly with the Doctor Strange stuff, because I mean, like we've talked about before, when they
Hmm.
went and fought Dormammu,
Hmm.
motherfucker, that was from the comics. Those
Yeah,
visuals were from the goddamn comics. So I mean,
Exactly.
imagine seeing a movie that's going to take influence like this and present an outer
Yeah.
space like a CG version of this. Man, I would fucking eat that up. And that's the thing that excites me about it, because it feels
Yeah.
like there's now a generation of comic fans or fans in general who
Hmm.
are sort of from our era and who have these same reference points, you know what I mean? Who have the
Hmm.
same, potentially same love of the same kinds of things, and are now at a point where they're working on these movies. They have some influence on like the visual style and the look of these things. Like, dude, doing one of these, let's get a modern kind of, not a heavy metal movie, but let's get
Yeah.
a modern movie that's going to take from these stories. Let's mine the territory of some of these Warren magazines. Let's mine the
Exactly.
territory and do an anthology type of film that they used to do in the 80s and 90s, you know, like
Hmm.
when they did Tales from the Crypt movies and all of these kind of things, where let's use that technology, let's make it live action, but let's really put them in a space and really fucking dig into some of these
Yeah.
classic sci-fi and horror artists. That would be unreal, you know. The technology really feels like it's there, that it wouldn't be that difficult to do, especially
Yeah.
when you think of like video game design and the CG and what people can do just in the theaters, right? So Ditko, of course, is the name I was trying to think of earlier. They completely mimic
Yeah.
Ditko's world of when Doctor Strange goes in to fight these characters, right? Like in the
Oh
land
yes,
of
yes, yes.
Dormammu, right?
Yeah, that's why we were like both of us and you and me were so excited about it because we
Yeah.
know Doctor Strange as much because we like to read about this character, but then you see it on a big screen, you go giddy like a child almost to the point because you're like, oh my god, they actually made it, like they
Yeah.
didn't like just took the story and put their own spin to it, but just gave you that flair of the character, like that visual stimuli.
Yeah. Later,
Okay,
Paulo. Thanks.
Paolo.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, totally. And just, it's just exciting to think that that influence is now kind of a little
Mm.
more in the world of film, and there's more people that are working there and able to go that route. Yeah.
Because I'm not sure who published those magazines because I'm not that much information about it.
1994. It was the Warren, so Warren
Warren,
magazine. Oh, I
Warren
thought it was on
magazine.
the
Okay.
front there. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah,
Because
somewhere
that's
in
what. Because when you were showing them last time, I was looking for that 1984 just to, just to see because I always look to see the prices, of course, because it's just
there. Yep.
because it's I would be curious to read any because this looks very nice, to be honest.
Yep.
In the covers, even the inside art as well. But I
Yep.
couldn't find them because just typing 1984, of course, I had all other things coming out, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
I forgot to ask you who published it. So now I know.
Yep.
So I'm gonna have a look for
And the
sure.
thing is, like, I think it was Damien telling me about these years ago, and it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
another one that is just not around. It's just not around. Sorry. Oh, hello. It's just not one that I've ever seen. It took me forever to find these, like, and it's
Uh-huh.
only been fluke that they've popped up so back to back.
Hello, happy birthday, happy
Thank you.
birthday. Good.
How old are you now?
Yeah.
7.
7 years
Oh
old.
my god,
OMG. It's
7 years.
crazy, right?
I remember you being so tiny little one in the screen.
She's saying she remembers when you were so tiny
Yeah.
because you were in videos when you were a baby. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yes.
I've shown you those pictures or anything, but
No.
you and your brother, like literally, I think it was both of them, right?
No, yeah, both of them, and then you with her, and you were that big dining table. She was there next to you. So it was
Yeah,
hilarious, but
that's
it was
right. Yeah,
fantastic to watch. Yeah, and
yeah,
now you're seeing her. Oh my god, 7 years.
I
Wow.
know. It's insane, right? Yeah.
They
Hey,
grow
what have
like
we been? What have we been reading?
yeah.
Thorgal.
Thor Girl.
Yeah. And how are
Oh,
you? Like?
I love it.
Yeah.
oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it looks very entertaining.
Yeah. Do you want to show her? Do you see the one with the number 4 on the side there?
Yeah.
You want to pull that one off? I know that dinner's ready, but so to your right.
Okay, I'm going.
More. Keep going. Oh, more to the right. Here, I'll help you. Stand by, everybody. Hold on
Okay.
one second.
Go without saying Feliz cumpleaños.
That one there. Oh, as I rock and roll the world here. Oh, thank you
Wow.
very much. Mine G. Gus is saying happy birthday. Gore Vidal is saying happy birthday.
Thank you.
So this is the
That's-
one we read recently. What did you think of this one? Do you remember what the stories were in this one? The first one was he was imagining a friend, right? Do you remember that one?
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah. Was it
Mm,
a little scary for you, this one, or how did you feel about it?
yeah.
It was a little scary at first. When like she got hurt and
Yeah, here, right?
yeah, and that's
Wow.
kind of stuff. And when she was like evil,
Uh-huh.
that's what scared me most of all.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
near the end, so this kind of imagined kind of child is kind of taking over. So when this other her son has control and has made up this character, but it starts becoming its own person because he's trying to now wish it away.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens is the eyes go white. So their dog, the eyes go white, and then at
Whoa.
one point the mom comes back and the mom gets white eyes. So
Oh
that
no.
was a little intense, but it ends really, really well. Like it ends really nicely. The dad
good.
comes, saves everybody, and of course, then everybody goes back to normal, and the family is back together. So, what happened as soon as we were done this story?
Mm-hmm.
You pointed at this one, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we finished the first half of the book, and
Yeah.
then she saw the next page. It's like, okay, let's read the next one. So we ended up reading the whole book in one
Wow.
night. And
Wow.
the second one was fantastic too, right? Do you remember about this story?
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing that scared me in this part is like when like they had necklaces and they were gonna shoot bow and arrows at the shooting, and it was on their body, so that was a little freaky.
It was this
Or
archery competition, and part of the archery competition was you had to shoot at the other person on your team.
Wow, really?
And every time you were successful, they went back another 20 paces, and then you switched. So yeah, it was a little intense for sure, but
Jesus.
everybody was okay by the end. And of course,
That's
in
the
these
most
books, everything turns out great for the heroes. You know, these aren't kind of really dark for the heroes. The heroes come out on top at the end. But yeah,
That's great. It sounds very entertaining.
so pretty good overall. Is that your review? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a fan.
Very
Okay.
good. Good. We're looking forward to hear next one.
Yeah. Okay. For sure. Yeah. So I'm also getting the word that dinner's almost ready.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Yes, it's fine. Yeah, we already past 2-hour time anyway, so.
Yeah, but it is crazy though, like you were saying, you know, because I'd forgotten about those videos, you know, literally as a baby beside me. Yeah, you're 100% right. It's just insane, man.
Yeah, you were doing the videos, and then you used to have a monitor, and you always listen to it, and she's like, wait, I think she's waking up, and then you jump into, and then she just sits there next to you. I was like, what? Yeah. Hilarious. It was really nice to see, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. 7 years later, we watching her doing whatever she's, like growing up so fast. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
Time goes fast.
Yeah, it for sure will. Okay, everybody. Thanks very much for hanging out. Paulo, Mind the Comics, Gore Vidal. Who else was here? Francis O'Reilly. Yep. We appreciate it. It was nice to sit and chat. And Jackio, of course, who was in the chat. Who's been participating. I don't know if you follow Jackio on Instagram, but he's been doing some Inktober stuff as well too. And some really cool ones. Oh. I think he's taking triggers from the Kayfabe, because Kayfabe had an Inktober, and there were so many of them around. But I think he was taking cues from theirs. Some really cool stuff, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I last year I was doing that. This year, no, I burned out actually after that because I was drawing for too long.
It's a lot, right? Because it's a lot to do every single day.
The thing is, last year before the Inktober, I was drawing already for a year. And then Inktober starts, so I continued, and I was thinking I'll be, like going into flow and stuff like that. But I completely burned out to the point where I didn't want even to see the pencil in my hand.
Oh, really? Hey, wow.
Because it's the same kind of thing with comic books. Like I put too much tension in myself. I wanted to like improve and all that stuff. I enjoyed it while I was doing it. I have a lot of memories from that, but end of the picture, I really hated it because myself, not the drawings I was doing, but myself. I just went. It's like, no, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to do anything about it. It's just like sometimes I understand. I admire people who can draw every single day because they part of it, like that much passion to have. But I wanted just to get into habit, and I was doing it, but I pushed myself, and I am the person who doesn't sometimes know when to limit themselves or to stop when it's the right time to stop, and I never did, and I just burned completely out from that point on.
Yeah, it feels like those kind of things are for very specific, like it feels like some of those challenges are for very specific groups of people who are either trying to make it as their living or already have it as their living and kind of keeping their chops up. You know what I mean? Like, and like you were saying, it's really important to know that about yourself of like, okay, you know what? I got to just stop, but
well, the thing is it was not supposed to be. Originally Inktober was supposed to be done for you to improve your inking. So that to go back and do your old school way of drawing, basically, because inking is never easy for you to master, especially if you do all about digital stuff like that. And he, the creator of Inktober, he's a self-publisher who publishes books for kids and publishes his own comic books and stuff, and he's really popular because of that Inktober as well. And he's also a teacher, but his main goal was to introduce this Inktober to actually do it for artists to, if you want to, basically, not pushing to the point of limit, like, oh, I want to show off, but to improve your inking, dipping your ink and put on a piece of paper and see how much you can actually do and how improvement you can achieve. And a lots of creators who actually done that, they start to enjoy inking, so they like wanted to improve, like put that part of the art. Sometimes some of the stories, other people went to other ones, like they start showing off, and of course pressure of being better than everybody else because of Instagram, because everybody's posting the Inktober, and some of them who, like, there's one guy, he is absolutely fantastic when it comes from Inktober. His characters, his character creations are superb, and if you always watch him, you don't want to basically draw anymore, because I'll show it to you an example. Let me what's my favorite? I don't know what it's such a good one. His storytelling is really this is actually hilarious, this one. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but this is his one of the latest. So you see the fish guy is selling.
Oh yeah, with his jacket open. Yeah,
he's selling corals.
Cool. Yeah.
But he's is extremely good at, or is about to kill himself, or he killed himself already. So,
okay. Yeah.
But he is absolutely spot on when it comes to, or like one of his famous the previous it's just too much to he done this series of this Snow White being drunk. I mean, come on. And the birdies are flying around her because she's fucking
hilarious.
But so when you watch this kind of guy doing the art, you go like, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's a little discouraging almost. Yeah.
Look at him, this fat guy on the goat, man, and the goat saying, fuck, I'm about to die.
Maybe message me that name as well too.
Yeah, look, Ghost Rider.
Oh, cool. On a trike there, is that what that is?
Yeah. Give me a second, I'll show you too. Oh, look. Can you see that one?
Sort of. I mean, I can sort of make out the shapes. Looks like a very shapely woman. Is that a hedge? Is it a hedge trimmer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Make sure she has a bush in the middle. So yeah, this guy is each Inktober. He produces some amazing characters.
Yeah.
He's as I say, if you, it was the first bad thing I did by following this guy, because
Yeah, yeah.
in your brain you think, "What? How the fuck he comes up with this stuff?" And he shows sometimes even what more annoying thing. Oh, it took me 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't know how much that truth is, but he actually did them live, I think, once, or he actually recorded the video of him drawing, and there was a timer. He has this cooking timer.
Okay.
There's a
Yeah.
maximum amount, and he's like, "Okay, this what I'm gonna do," and
Like
then
an
he
egg
does.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he does it, and you're like, "Fuck
Wow.
me!" And then there is people asking him a question, "Why are you so good at it?" He said, "Because I like the challenge."
Yeah.
And some people are thriving on that. There's some people who
Totally.
actually completely um wants this like competitiveness nature of things, like of doing from every single day, but being on schedule, always posting on time, like getting people even now before October starts, they do it like a year before that, or try to at least kind of like people that do their own Inktober thing, because of they can create the characters they want to draw, they kind of like pre-draw them and
Yeah.
then ink them, kind of thing, which is
Yeah.
the basic idea was. But of course,
Mm-hmm.
if you think that through, of course you're gonna have some amazing stuff. But if you
Yeah.
do it on a day, it takes for a long time if you want to impress people,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where the pressure starts. Anyway, we
Yeah.
can stop
Totally. That brings up the other thing too. There was the videos that I've been watching lately.
it.
Like I wish there was more of them, of people doing this kind of inking. Like I think I sent you a link
Yeah,
to
yes.
drawing blueberry and stuff. On that channel, there's a shit ton of these European artists just showing them either drawing their own character or somebody else's character. It is
Mhm.
endlessly fascinating. And those videos are usually really, really short, but it
Mhm.
is so great to see kind of that blueberry one was so good, because as he's drawing certain parts of it, it's like, what the fuck is that going to be? And then seeing it all come together, and just
Yeah.
the ease and like the beauty of each individual line, is that stuff. I could watch that for all day. I mean, I can't do it, but I can
Mhm.
watch it. I could watch that easily, like 24 hours a day. It's incredible to see just the confidence and even the moment of hesitation, and then doing the
Mhm.
line, doing it so smoothly and beautifully, and seeing the finished piece. I watched a whole bunch that same night that I sent you that link. I ended up
Mhm.
watching like at least 12 or 13 of them, you know what I mean, back to back.
If you want to enjoy somebody's mind going crazy on a drawing board, go watch that. That's why he's so famous. Kim Jung Ji, I think that's what he's
Okay.
not the crazy guy from Korea, but like this artist famous. I will probably give you a
Oh,
link.
I
You
think I
probably know
might have
him,
seen one of the videos before, but yeah, definitely send me a link.
because there's one of him is using whiteboard, and
Okay.
from one speck of whatever way he started it, he has the whole fucking story, like a street running. Oh my god. And he draws, it doesn't have anything else, he just have a marker. And
Wow.
what he does in that little thing, not little, I mean it's massive, those
Mhm.
like office whiteboards, like
Yeah, yeah.
completely like crazy size. And you
Yep.
just start drawing from one section, and it's like fisheye as well, not like simple like your static motion characters. No, it's
Yep.
in motion and it's on the fish lens, like the
Wow.
camera fish lens. So yeah,
Yep.
I
Yep.
need to find it. I watched that, and I went, I'm never gonna be a professional because this is impossible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he has that. He's been drawing, I mean, forever. But it's
Well, and
just
that's the thing, right? Like you get the sense from some of these Inktober things, it's like
yeah,
this is clearly someone who's been working at this for like 20 years. You know, this isn't someone
yeah.
who's doing it as a hobby and just kind of deciding to partake in a challenge. This is someone who's got some chops and some history behind them.
Well, the thing is, it became like that. Like it
Yeah,
became
yeah,
something what people can't compete with, but it shouldn't have been like this. But of course,
yeah, yeah,
we live in this day and age where it's always about showing the quick things and as beautiful as possible, just because you want to be as good as everybody else. But it takes time to become that person, and people sometimes don't realize, and especially younger people who also, if you watch the comments, sometimes I just like I lose patience just reading one or two comments from that post that person did. What people
yeah.
asking, what pencil did you use? What
Yeah,
eraser did you? What paper was that? You think that's gonna be a magic wand you're gonna buy?
exactly.
Although, if it's a very good working instrument or pen, whatever you want to use, yes, it does help you to achieve to a point, but
For
you
sure.
still need the skill.
That's right.
Unfortunately, it's not a magic trick. I wish it would be, because I would be like, whatever, I would do it anyway.
Well, and I mean that's exactly why it's so appealing to me, because like when I was watching those European guys,
Mhm.
it's clear that like I'm looking at someone who has been doing it for 30, 40 years, who's been doing it, since maybe the 60s or 70s, and just seeing that after all of that time, after all that lived experience, and after all the time of like the repetition, just showing that, and it's something that the kayfabe guys have talked about too, to some degree, about that, they make it look easy because for them at that point it is easy, but the thing is that it's not unobtainable for anybody, because if you
Yeah.
dedicate to a specific thing,
Oh
whatever that
yeah.
is, working, whatever that happens to be, like you can get to that level, but you have to dedicate. And it's just the beauty of seeing, and it's the same thing, like we started off, it's nice to kind of come full circle. We started off with Darwin Cook, and that's something that's so beautiful to me, to look at his pieces and to
But it's
see
just,
that kind of illustrative style and know that he's really doing these beautiful fucking brush strokes and just getting in there, even when he's working digitally. But I mean, I'm talking more, obviously more when he's working like
yeah,
in physical media,
yeah,
right? Like
traditionally, yeah.
it's incredible to see someone at the height of their talent and just show you something that it does look like magic, and it does really give you like, well, fuck, I could do that too. And obviously in reality, I know that I can't. But it's that I like that kind of presentation where
Yeah.
they make it look so seamless and nice and flowing, So yeah.
Well, Darwin Cook's background says a lot. He's worked in animation for years
Yep.
until he starts doing the comic books. But that background of animation, it just makes you have to work quickly. There's no time. You have to make the movement. The animation takes forever just to make one movie. So imagine the experience he gained from doing that, and for
Totally.
years,
Well, and who
especially.
he worked with. I mean, he worked with guys like
Yeah,
Bruce Timm, right? Who,
exactly.
that's kind of that sort of house style as well, too. When you're thinking of an animation studio, you have
Yeah,
to work in sort of a house style, because there's a lot of similarities between
exactly.
their art, that's still two very different people, clearly, but
Yeah.
that sort of house style is that simplicity, and you got to do that for animation. You can't have something that's overly complex, because how the fuck are you going to animate that? You got to send it to someone in Korea to do the in-betweens, and it's going to be some really complex character. There's no way you're going to get it done, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And on
I'm
that,
going to end the broadcast.
yeah.
Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Ending broadcast.